been, I think this is, I'm not sure which week we are already in this certificate.
7.
The 7 week also. This is the almost more than the middle of the program already. So today I'm going to be talking about production. Okay, so as Dr. Zara introduction previously, what I'm doing currently is on SDG roadmap for Malaysia. So most probably you'll see the relationship later lah. Okay, so basically what we are going to be doing today is looking at production, but we'll start with the relationship between GDP and production. Okay, and then we will see why is it that we start with GDP, and then we're going to be looking at what happened when the production is not Islamic. Okay, then we are going to go into the more formal definition of what is production. Okay, why is there a need for production when we look it from an Islamic perspective? Okay, and when we talk about productions, in order for us to produce something, there need to be input. Okay, then we'll look at the input or the resources that's going to be used for productions. Okay, and then I think the last part we are going to be looking at the technicality of the relationship between production and supply function. Okay, because in the end, when we talk about production, okay, the products produced is going to be sold and bought by the consumer. Okay, so let's start with this. In looking at production. So what I'm showing you over here or over there on the screen is GDP. Okay, and if you look at the, not sure whether it's right side or the left side, if you look at the map of the US over there, okay, it tell you what is the definitions of GDP, where GDP is the total monetary or market value of all the finished goods and services produced within a country's border in a specific time period. So we are looking at output that are produced. Okay, GDP are the output that are produced. So that's why we want to look at productions. Okay, because production is something that is produced by people in the economy. Okay, and this is one of the most important indicators if you are talking about economic growth. In fact, there is a book talking about invention, where GDP is the one of the greatest inventions that you have for this decade, because everyone are affected by the calculation of GDP. Okay, and the calculation of GDP is not something, in a way, is something that is recent. Okay, the calculation of GDP started sometime in the 1930s. Okay, before that there is no GDP calculations. Okay, and over time there are different there are different ways or different method people introduce, okay, in trying to calculate what is the well-being of people in the countries. But GDP are still one of the most important, and it's talking about, okay, what is the output produced. Okay, and on the other side you can see that is the GDP of the world, okay, in 2019, okay, where you have the US having the largest GDP. China is second, and if you look at the Muslim countries, it's not easy for us to see where are the Muslim countries. Okay, so here we are talking about output that are produced. Okay, the output that are produced, if you want to, we look at from an Islamic perspective, there are a lot of output that are that are Islamic, but there are also output that are not Islamic. So if you want to talk about GDP from an Islamic perspective, then we need to look at output that are allowable, okay, from the Islamic perspective, from Sharia, from the Islamic worldview. Okay, so why is it that people always talk about GDP? Okay, why is it that different international institutions, okay, saying that GDP is important? Okay, one of the reason is that they are talking about this trickle down effect. Okay, they are assuming that, okay, if GDP is high, okay, if economy is growing fast, okay, if economy is growing fast, then the rich are going to gain more wealth. Okay, when you have more wealth, not just the rich lah, okay, you are going to have a lot of people that's going to get more wealth. So when people have more wealth, there will be more investment that can be created. Okay, and this investment is going to create jobs. Okay, and when people are going to have more wealth, there's going to be more spending, there's going to be more consumptions, and this is going to increase demand. The increase in demand is going to increase tax revenue. The increase in investment is going to increase tax revenue. So what we are going to have, this positive multiplier effect of increase in spending, okay, because of this trickle down effect. Okay, and when you have more investment, when the countries have more investment, then we are going to have more workers is going to be hired. As more workers going to be hired, demand for workers is going to be high, and then workers going to get higher pay. So that's the trickle down effect. Okay, that people talk about. Okay, when they promote high GDP. Okay, but in order for this trickle down effect to happen, there's a lot of assumption. Okay, but so this is the theory. Okay, talking about the trickle down effect. Okay, but in reality, whether we have this happening, okay, in some cases you do have this happening, but in more cases this is not happening. So because of that, we have a lot of people talking about, okay, we need to shut down capitalism. Okay, we don't need capitalism. We need to talk about different type of economic system. Okay, we need to. Okay, so that's why I think a few weeks ago we have the lectures on comparative economic system. Okay, if you are talking about economic system, we are talking about okay, not in the world we don't have just a three absolute economic system where you have your capitalism, where you have your socialism, and most probably during the lectures we talk about the Islamic economic system. But even in capitalism, there is a myriad, there's different diverse type of capitalism. Okay, but because of the issues in the economies that we have now, because of the issues in a lot of Western countries, because of the issues with the environment, because of the issues with poverty, okay, because of issues of inequality. So you have people saying that, okay, we should move away from capitalism. So of course, what we want is Islamic economic system, okay, because we are Muslim. But to get to there, a lot of things have to be changed. Okay, so when they talk about these theories with regard to this trickle-down effect, there are a lot of assumptions. Okay, there's a lot of assumption with regard to the market structure. One of the most important assumption, okay, when we talk about capitalism is that capitalism assume that capitalism assume that market is competitive. Okay, but we know that market are not competitive. So because of all these different issues, so okay, we don't really have this trickle down. We don't really have this trickle effect. Okay, so when and also, okay, with the current ways that countries are producing, okay, countries are talking about GDP. We have all these issues with pollutions. Okay, when we talk about productions, when companies talk about productions, okay, they just think about themselves. Okay, they are not thinking about what's going to be the effects of their productions to the economy. Okay, what's going to be the effect of their production to the environment. Okay, when I say they don't really think about what's going to be the effect of their production on the economy, the production may have a negative effect, okay, on other people. Okay, it is positive for that producers, okay, but it is negative for the other people. I think last lecture or last 2-week lecture, Prof Rokia talked about externalities. Okay, so when we are in capitalism, where people are only think about their self-interest, then you are going to have these issues. Okay, but if we look at production from an Islamic perspective, then it is going to be different, because all this cost is going to be internalized. So that's what we are going to be looking at today. What is production from an Islamic perspective, where people will not when people talk about when economic agents talk about self-interest, they are also the self-interest is already internalized. What are the negative externalities that that's going to happen, okay, when they produce their products. Okay, and at the same time, okay, because a lot of the assumption when we talk about capitalisms are not satisfied. Okay, market are not competitive. A lot of market are you have monopolistic structure, you have oligopolistic structure, you have people in power that are able to control the system. Okay, so that's why we already also have this poverty and inequalities. Okay, so that's the issues that we have now. Okay, when we talk about production. Okay, when we talk about production in a quote unquote capitalist system. Okay, even when we talk about production in a socialist system, okay, we do have some of this issue, because most of the time when economic agent, when people make decisions, they are not thinking about what's going to happen to other people. Okay, sometimes they intentionally not thinking about what is going to happen to other people. Okay, sometimes sometimes they don't even know, okay, what they are doing. Okay, what they are producing is going to affect other people. Okay, so when we look at production from an Islamic perspective, that is going to be one of the most important things. Okay, when we do something, okay, okay, what is our ultimate aim? Okay, so if let's say when we do something, we think about what is going to be our ultimate aim. Okay, hopefully, okay, inshallah, this issue of poverty, this issue of pollution will not happen. Okay, at least it will not happen intentionally. Okay, if even UN realize this, okay, we cannot just target GDP. Okay, we cannot just target gross domestic products. All this theory saying that GDP is going to trickle down and solve poverty and solve inequality, okay, is not happening. So that's why they come up with the 17 goals of SDG. Okay, because this GDP, we do not talk about hunger. GDP do not talk about no poverty. GDP do not talk about climate action, climate change. Okay? In fact, since 1970s, we already have a lot of people talking about there is a need to come up with different measures of different ways of measuring output. Okay, so I think I'll answer any question sometime when I in around 10:15 or something, when I finish all my slides, because I have to go through a lot of slides over here. Okay, because I see there's a lot of hand being raised. Okay, so now let's look at the definitions of productions from an economic perspective. Okay, so what is production? Production is the process and method used to transform resources. Okay, so whether it is a tangible resources or tangible outputs or intangible output. Okay, intangible output can be ideas, can be informations, can be knowledge into goods or services. And if we look at a lot of economies currently, if we look at a lot of countries, the share of GDP from services is much higher than the share of GDP from production of physical goods. Okay, and what are the resources? The resources are also called the factors of productions. Okay, and these factors of productions going to be used to create output that is suitable for use or going to have exchange value. So when we talk about production is a transformation process, okay, from resources, okay, that may not be useful at that stage, okay, to something that is to an output that is useful and has an exchange values for the economic agent. So we are talking about output that are physical, output that are not physical. Okay, and we have a lot of resources that we have on Earth. Okay, so later on we talk about the factors of production and the resources that we have on our planet Earth, and later on maybe when we go to the moon, when we go to the different planet, maybe we're going to mine the resources from other planets for us to use on planet Earth. Okay, I think most of you have seen this circular flow model of the economy. Okay, what I'm trying to show over here is where is the production process. Okay, so in this circular flow model of the economy, so this is a very, very simple models of the economy. Okay, where we look at the interactions of the different economic agents that we have in the economy. And here we don't have a government. We can put a government somewhere over here. Okay, but I think last week you may have talked about consumption. Okay, consumption is from the household side of the economy or the consumer side of the economy. So what we are looking at over here today is looking at the production side, or the business sides, or the firm sides of the economy. Okay, even even the consumer can be the consumer can also be the producers. Okay, so the firm who are the one that's going to be producing, firms are the one that is going to be producing output. Okay, and in order for the firm to produce output, the firm need to get the firm will need to buy resources from this resource market or the factor market that we have on top over here. Okay, so then we have to look at, okay, what does it mean by resource market or factors market from an Islamic perspective? Who are the one that's going to be selling resources in this resource market? We have the consumer or the household going to be selling their resources in the factor or resource market. Okay, so after the businesses, the firm transform combine the different resources, combine the different factors and produce a product. Then the firm is going to sell the products in the products market. The firm is going to get revenue, and who is going to be the one buying products from the products market? The consumers are the one is going to be buying products in the products market. So you have that circular flow model, a very very simple circular flow model of the economy. Okay. So now, why is it that we have to look at production? Okay, even though our discussion, I think last week you talked about consumption. Okay, but in order for economic agent, in order for human being, in order for people to consume, okay, something need to be produced. Okay, you cannot consumer cannot eat rice, okay, if no one is producing paddy. Okay, consumers cannot eat meat if no one is having cows or chicken or whatever. Okay, so why is it we need production? Allah has created man to serve him. Okay, Allah say, I have not created man except that they should serve me. Okay, so for you to serve Allah, okay, for you to pray, for you to go to Mecca, okay, for you to pray in the mosque have to be built. For you to go to Mecca, okay, if you are from Malaysia, then you have to take an airplane, you have to take an aeroplane. The aeroplane have to be produced. For you to pray, okay, you need to be okay, healthy for you to pray properly. Okay, so in order for you to serve Allah, okay, in order for you to serve Allah, okay, something need to be produced. Okay, or else then you will not have the energy for you to serve Allah. You will not be able to fly to Mecca. You'll not be able to go to the mosque. Okay, so something need to be produced. In fact, building a mosque will also be a part of the calculation of GDP. Okay, when you go take a fly, when you go fly to go to the Mecca, okay, then there will be service provided, and that service provided is going to be calculated in the GDP. So this life is a preparation for the hereafter. Okay, so as you prepare for you to prepare for the hereafter, you need to produce something. If you don't produce something, okay, you'll not be able to it will be hard for you to serve Allah. Okay, so we know human beings are created with the role of Khalifa. Okay, this role gives us the sorry. Okay, so this role outlines the responsibility and provide the reason for the existence of human being. Okay, so what are the reasons? Okay, fulfilling God's will on earth, prompting what is good, forbidding what is wrong, establishing justice, and promoting beneficent, resulting in attaining high level of good life, both individual and collective. Okay, so to do that, okay, you need to work. Okay, work is production come from your work. If the Prophet say the most lawful of what the person eat is from his own work, okay, rather than asking for charity, okay, and from every pious sale. So we are talking about businesses. We are talking about firms. Okay, we are talking about firms selling their products. So when you have that product, then you'll be able to serve Allah in a proper way. Okay, in fact, when you are talking about in the Surah Jum'ah, 10, okay, and when the prayer has been concluded, disperse within the land and seek from the bounty of Allah, and remember Allah often that you may succeed. Okay, so Allah asks you to disperse, Allah asks you to work, okay, and seek the bounty of Allah. Okay, so this is similar. Okay, talking about the prosperities that you have in earth, you have to work. Okay, work's going to lead to productions of output. Okay, so how to serve? Okay, something need to produce before something can be consumed. Okay, so for you to serve Allah, okay, you need to make sure you have energy for you to serve Allah. Okay, we have to make sure that we'll be able to have the transportation to go and serve Allah. Okay, we have to make sure that we'll be able to build a mosque in order for us to serve Allah. And how do we produce? We have to produce efficiently. Okay, so previously I showed you about the all the pollution. So similarly, okay, when we are talking about production, we don't want to waste our production. We don't want to waste our resources. Okay, because we don't want to waste our resources, we have to produce efficiently. Okay, so we want to produce as much as possible from the resources that we have. Okay, so that's why okay, with the resources, there are different objective of the purpose of resources that we have. Okay, so in this ayah, in Surah Ibrahim, ayat 32 to 34, it is Allah who created the heaven and earth, who sent down water from the heaven, and thereby brought forth a variety of fruits as your sustenance, who subjected for you the ships that they may sail in the sea by his command, who subjected for you the rivers, who subjected for you the sun, the moon, and both of them are constant on their courses, who subjected for you the night and the day, who give you all that you ask him for. Were you to count the favors of Allah, you should never be able to encompass them. Verily, man is highly unjust, exceedingly ungrateful. Okay, so Allah have given you all these different resources. Okay, and what you need to do with the resources. Okay, so in the end, okay, what you have in the end, the objective is to serve Allah. Okay, so what does the ayah say? Okay, Allah informs us that the creation of heaven, earth, and other resources are to facilitate human life on earth. All other creatures have been made subject to human authorities, so that's why we talk about all these different. Okay, we talked about the ships, we talked about rivers, we talked about sun and moon. Okay, that is subject to human authority. Okay, subject to us. Okay, to use. Okay, to produce products, to produce, or in modern term, to produce goods and services. And the good thing is that the sustenance he has provided, Allah has provided through the resources, is infinite, more than enough to support human life on earth. Okay, and most probably you have talked about scarcity. Okay, what is scarcity from an Islamic perspective? Okay, so from an Islamic perspective, we talk about relative scarcity instead of instead of absolute scarcity. We have been given all the thing that is needed. Okay, the thing is that whether we have found, okay, we have figured out how to use the resources that we have. Okay, the resources going to require human, okay, as a Khalifa. Okay, the resources as the input going to require human intervention to be transformed. Okay, so if let's say you think about a lot of different resources that we have in the world. Okay, if you think about wood, 100 years ago, the way we use wood are different. Okay, if you compare to the way that we use wood today. So that is one example when we talk about scarcity, when we talk about relative scarcity. Okay, so we have the good. Okay, the thing now, we have the resources. The thing now, how are we going to use the resources? Okay, the 100 years ago, the way we use the resources is going to be different from 100 years from today. Okay, if you are talking about 1,000 years ago, how people use oil that they found on land, and how people are using oil today are going to be different. Okay? Maybe oil is not useful anymore 100 years from now. Okay, where people are going to be using solar power. Okay, so even the nature of resources change. Okay, as people, as human being become, as human being evolve, as human being become more productive, as human being become more knowledgeable, different resources going to have different uses. So producers as the Khalifa on earth, okay, what the producers have to do, okay, or what the firm have to do, okay, they have to transform resources into final good. Okay, but in transforming the resources into final good, since from an Islamic perspective, the economic agent is the Khalifa. Okay, they are going to see that the resources that is given by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is a trust to them. Okay, so when they know that the resources that are given by Allah to them is a trust, then they know they should not pollute. Okay, so if what we have is an Islamic producers, we should not have the pollution. Okay, if the producers if the firm is knowledgeable, we should not have those pollutions. Okay, we may have the pollution if the producers do not know. Okay, then we go back to the question of a relative scarcity. Okay, the question of relative scarcity, because one of the important thing is knowledge. Okay, to help us to transform the resources. Okay, for us to know whether what we are doing is correct or not. Okay, okay, and since the producers as the Khalifa know that the resources that are given to them are a trust, so they know that they are accountable for the use of the resources. Okay, so since resources are a trust, so it is an amanah to the producers. So at IIUM, we talk about khair. Khair is a summary of 4 words. One is Khalifa, KH. Okay, and then you have amanah, A. Iqra, I is Iqra, and R is rahmatan lil alamin. Okay, so when you have a Khalifa know they have the amanah to improve the world, to improve human being. So, and in order to improve human being, in order to improve the world, okay, in serving Allah, they need to have knowledge. That is Iqra. So that is our short form, and we hope, inshallah, that the students that we nurture in this university at IIUM is going to have this attribute of khair, khalifah, amanah, Iqra and rahmatan lil alamin. Okay, so as the resources and amanah, ownership in Islam is not something that is absolute. So when you know that, okay, what you have is not absolute, okay, then you're going to take care of what you have. So that's why I have a pictures over there, car rental. So when you rent a car, you are going to make sure that when you return the car is in a good order. Okay, so you have the trust, okay, by the companies that you are going to take care of the car as good as you can. Okay, so when we talk about production, Allah has endowed human being with an abundance of resources. So as a Khalifa, human being have been given amanah to manage the resources. Okay, so when you manage the resources, you produce products. The product is not only a mean for material satisfaction, but to attain falah as the ultimate goals in the for an economic agent, for a Homo Islamicus. Okay, so because of that, when the producers make production decision, they are going to observe the Islamic concept, the Islamic worldviews, the Islamic concept of justice. Okay, you're going to observe the Sharia. So that's the philosophy of production from an Islamic perspective. So it's different when we talk about Homo economicus. Okay? Homo economicus, the philosophy is trying to satisfy their utility, which come from their preference, and the preference is not guided by the Quran and Sunnah. Okay, whereas from an Islamic perspective, the preferences are guided by the Quran and the Sunnah. Okay, when the preferences are guided by the Quran and Sunnah, then what the Islamic producers are going to be doing is going to be Islamic. Okay, currently, I am doing the SDG roadmap for Malaysia. So what I'm telling the government, okay, why don't we just promote halal industry? Okay, so if we promote halal industry, we know that the industry will be Islamic. When the industry is Islamic, you will not have pollution. Okay, when the industry is Islamic, when the firm is Islamic, when the firm make decision, they are going to think about what is going to be the effect of the output that they produce to the people. Okay, whether it's going to increase inequality, whether it's going to improve poverty, whether it's going to improve inequalities, whether it's going to improve the lot of people that you have in the economy. Okay, so if let's say all the firms that you have in the economy is Islamic, okay, if you have all the firms that you have in the economy is Islamic, then the output is going to be Islamic. Okay, then you will be able to achieve all the SDG that you talk about. Okay, then the United Nations will be able to achieve their sustainable development goal. Okay, so we talk about the resources, the factors of production. So what are the factors of production? Conventional economy have summarized the factors of production or the resources into four, which are labor, land, entrepreneurship, and capital. Okay, and the main difference in terms of mainstream economics and then Islamic economics, when we talk about these four productions, going to be in the is going to be in the capital part. Okay, so we have summarized these resources or these factors of production into four. Okay, they are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. Okay, so what does it mean by land? Okay, for sure there are a lot of resources that you have in the economy. So this is just to try to summarize, okay, to put the resources into these four categories. Land is just a broad term that include all natural resources that can be found on land. Okay, so when we talk about land as a resources, okay, that oil is also is in the category of land, gold is in the category of land, iron is in the category of land, vegetation is in the category of land, and the resources that you have in the land can be renewable and can be non-renewables, and then the incomes that come from using the land or natural resources is rent. Okay, and in a way it is similar. Okay, we are talking about from the mainstream neoclassical conventional perspective and from the Islamic perspective over here when we talk about land, where people is going to get rent from the land, income from the land. So it's the rent is just a term, okay, for return, for selling, for using oil, for using gold, for using wood, water, and anything that are similar to that nature. Okay, and then you have labor. Okay, labor is coming from individuals that exert effort to produce goods, and the labor is going to be paid wages. Okay, the thing is that when we talk about labor, okay, what is important is the productivity of the labor. Okay, so because when we talk about production, we want production that is efficient. Production that is efficient is Islamic. Okay, and then we have capital. Okay, so this is the main difference. Okay, when we want to look at resources from an Islamic perspective and resources from a mainstream perspective. Okay, from mainstream economic perspective, capitals or capital good as a factors of production refers to the money that is used to purchase items that are used to produce goods and services. Okay, so a firm can purchase factories, a firm can purchase trucks, a firm can purchase computers. Okay, yeah, in trying to produce the goods. Okay, they are all considered goods. Okay, so the words that important over here is purchase. So for you to purchase, you need to have money. Okay, okay, from a mainstream perspective, okay, they call the income that come from capital as interest. Okay, so the interest rate is a benchmark when we talk about income from capital. Okay, so when you talk about return from purchasing computers, return from purchasing factories, return from purchasing machineries, the benchmark return is the interest. So that is from mainstream economic perspective. Okay, so we'll come to the Islamic views on this capital later after we talk about entrepreneurship. So, and what is entrepreneurship? The entrepreneur is in a way is the person or the firm or the entities that's going to combine the three factors of production, the three resources, the three category of resources into into goods or services that can be consumed. Okay, and the income from these entrepreneurial activities is called profit. Okay, so that's from the that's the income from resources from the mainstream perspective. Okay, so now what's the difference? Okay, when we want to talk about capital, because we are talking about rent. Okay, when we talk about profit, in a way that's not much different from an Islamic perspective. Okay, so the rental of capital goods should be on the basis of operating lease, not financial lease. If you okay, so if you want to talk about it from an Islamic perspective, okay, so from a conventional perspective, they in a way they benchmark it as interest rate. They peg the return to the capital using interest rate. Okay, but from an Islamic perspective, since yes, we interest rate is not permissible. Okay, when you talk about capital, we are talking about the real capital. Okay, we are talking about the instead of the financial capital, we are talking about the return to the real capital. Okay, so the return to the real capital, okay, it can be the lease from the for the truck. Okay, it can be the lease for the for the machine, for the computers, rather than pegging it to interest rate. So return to capital is not interest rate. Return of capital in a way is back to rent, the rent of how you are the rent that you have to pay to use the capital, the rent that you have to pay to use the truck, the rent that you have to pay to use the computers, the rent that you have to pay to use the machinery. Okay, so the supply of capital is not a function of saving. Okay, it's not a function of the interest rate that you are going to get from your saving. So it's not the choice between present and future consumption. It's not linked to interest rate. Okay, but rather to the supply of capital determined by the opportunity cost of producing that capital goods. Okay, so that is the return to capital when we want to look at from an Islamic perspective. Okay, so back to if you remember the circular flow models of the economy, you have your resource market. Okay, where the firm in producing the products need to get the resources from the resource market. So now, when they get all the resources from the resource market and transform the resources into products, into output, or into goods, or into services, they will need to sell the goods in the product market. Okay, so from the firm perspective, the firm is going to supply the product. So what we want to do now is we want to look at the supply side of the firm. How does the firm, okay, how does the Islamic firm supply their product? What's going to be the decision? What is going to be the behavior of the firm? Okay, but then there is also another side. Okay, when you have supply, okay, if you don't have demand, then no one's going to buy your product. Then you also have the demand side. So the demand side, when you talk about the consumer, okay, it is the consumers is going to provide the demand side. When the consumer decide how much to consume, then you have the demand side. So for today, we are just looking at the supply side, because the firm's going to be involved with the supply side. Okay, so now it's going to become more technical. Okay, so how does the firm make decisions, okay, in supplying products, in supplying goods and goods and services. Normally, we are going to assume that the firms want to maximize profit. Okay, so later we're going to look at the profit maximization from an Islamic perspective. Okay, so we are going to assume that the firm is going to maximize profit. So is it correct or not? Okay, there are a lot of instances that the firms will not maximize profit. So the firm is going to decide, okay, in order to maximize profit, what do the firm need to do? Okay, so in order the firm to maximize profit, the firm need to produce output. In order for the firm to produce output, the firm need to employ resources. Okay, so the amount of output that the firm produce going to depend on the amount of resources that the firm is going to employ. Okay, and the amount of resources that the firm is going to employ, okay, is a cost, not a curse, is a cost that the firm is going to is the cost that the firm is going to incur. Okay, so for firm, profit is going to equal to revenue minus cost. Okay, where revenue is the amount of output that the firm produce time the price of the minus the cost. So this profit function, okay, where we are going to have the total products that the firm is going to produce, okay, minus the cost, is going to determine, okay, how does the supply of the firm look like. Okay, so in this economics models, what's going to happen if we know the firm production function? Okay, production function is how the firm use the different resources and transform the resources into an output. Okay, so if we know the production function of the firm, okay, we know the cost function of the firm. Okay, so cost function is how does what is going to be the cost of the firm, okay, when the firm produce product. So if we are able to combine that, then we'll be able to come up with a model for what we call a supply curve. Okay, so the model is saying that the firm maximize profit. Okay, but at the same time, I say that not all firm maximize profit. Okay, so from the models that I talked about before, we will be able to get a supply function. Okay, the supply function is going to tell us how much a firm is going to supply in the product market. Okay, but in the academic world, there are a lot of different theories with regard to the behavior of the firm. Okay, so you see over here, we can categorize the theories with regard to the behavior of the firm into three. Okay, one is with regard to profit maximization. Okay, we also have other optimizing theory. So there are other theories saying that a firm do not maximize profit, they maximize sales. Okay, and there are also non-optimizing theories, mainly the behavioral economic theory. So even when we talk about the behavior of the firm, okay, from the mainstream perspective or from the Western perspective, there are a lot of different theories. Okay, but the one theory that we always use, or at least the conventional or neoclassical economists always use, is that the firms are maximizing profit. Okay, so that is the model that is used mainly by the mainstream economists. Okay, so even though we assume, okay, firm maximize profit. There are other theories, okay, that say that firm do not maximize profit, but they maximize other things. Okay, and there are also other theories uh, talking about satisficing behaviors, okay, rather than maximizing behaviors or other type of behavior theories looking at the behavior of the firm. Okay, but for today we are mainly concerned about this profit maximizing theory. So what I'm saying over here is that there are a lot of other theories. Okay, it's not just one theory. Okay, and the other theories uh, sometimes are more important than the profit maximizing theory. Okay, and then even from the neoclassical perspective, from this mainstream perspective, that that profit maximization, and then from the profit maximization we will be able to get to the supply curve, also depend on the market structure. Okay, so when we talk about firms are maximizing profit, okay, and from there we'll be able to get the supply curve. We are assuming that the market is competitive. Okay, so again, back to the when we talk about GDP is good for the economy. Okay, GDP is going to improve the lot of people in the economy. The assumption is that the markets that we have is a competitive market, but in reality, most markets are not competitive. Okay, so we have different type of market structure. Yeah, I think last week or last 2 weeks, okay, you have the introduction to market structure, where we have a perfectly competitive market, we have monopolistically competitive market, we have oligopolistic market, we have monopolistic market. So when we have monopolistic market, oligopolistic market, or monopolistic market, okay, the way the firm maximize their profits is going to be different. Okay, it's different from a perfectly competitive market. Okay, so this is the technicality with regard to the supply function. Okay, and how we get to this how this is how we get to the supply function from profit maximizing price taking firm. Okay, for you who have mathematical background, so I'll just go through this very fast. Okay, we know the assumption is that the firms want to maximize profit. For the firm to maximize profit, the firm need to know what is going to be the revenue of the firm. The revenue is price times the amount of output that the firm produce, which is Y over here. So profit is total revenue minus total cost. So it is P times Y minus total cost is going to equal to profit. Okay, so the firm chooses its output to maximize profit, taking price as given. So this is a very important assumption. Okay, the firm is going to assume that price is given. What does it mean by price is given? It means that the firms are not able to control the price in the market. Okay, it is assuming that there are a lot of firms in the market. When there are a lot of firms in the market, the firm will not be able to control price. Okay, so that's why what I'm saying, what we are looking over here, we are looking at a perfectly competitive market. In a non-competitive market, the firm will be able to control price. Okay, when firm are able to control price, then it's going to be a different ways of coming out with an with an optimum output or optimum price. Okay, so in the end, what is going to happen? Okay, if we take the first order derivative of this function, we are going to see that in the end, price is going to equal to marginal cost. And what is going to be the supply of the firm? The supply of the firm is going to be anything that is above this above the minimum of this marginal cost. So from there, the firm, that's the amount of output that the firm is going to supply. Okay, so what we have now, okay, how do firm make decision? How much is going to supply? How much is going to supply? The firm is going to look at how much what is going to be the cost of all the resources, okay, and it's going to see how much revenue is going to get, and from there the firm is going to decide how much is going to the firm is going to supply based on the prices of the good. Okay, so now what is the difference between these theories with these mainstream theories with Islamic economic theories, okay, of this of the generation of supply function. Okay, so let's go back to this profit function. Profit function is total revenue minus total cost. Okay, so from the mainstream perspective, total revenue is going to depend on the price, okay, and then the amount of output that the firm is going to produce, and what is the total cost to produce the output. So what are the direct costs? The cost that come from land, the cost that come from capitals, the cost that come from land, capital, the cost that come from entrepreneurships, and the cost that come from labor. Okay, so from the mainstream perspective, they look at all those direct costs only. From an Islamic perspective, why is it that I say from an Islamic perspective, we are going to have less of that. We are going to have less of that pollution. We are going to have less of that negative externalities. Because when we are talking about from an Islamic perspective, the firms or the producers, okay, the Islamic firm, the Islamic producers, okay, when it make decision, the firm know or she know that ultimately what she is, what he is a Khalifa, okay, that are given amanah, okay, uh, uh, and what he's trying to do is to serve Allah. Okay, so when the firm make decision, the firm will not only look at the direct cost, okay, but this total cost will also include the indirect cost. That this total cost will also include the negative externality cost. Okay, the total cost is going to include the social cost. Okay, so when the firm try to maximize profit, okay, it's not only the firm will not only look at the direct cost, but the firm's going to look at the total cost, the total direct cost, but also the total social cost that the firm's going to incur by producing the output. Okay, so in this total cost, we are going to have a lot of other negative externalities that's going to be included over here. Okay, and when the negative externalities are included, then it's going to get into the decision making process of the firm. Okay, if there are pollutions, then the firm will not produce the product if the pollution is too much, because the cost is the social cost is too much. Okay, so that is going to be the difference between a mainstream capitalist firm and an Islamic firm. In fact, that's what the SDGs try to do. Okay, in fact, that's what a lot of bank is trying, conventional bank is trying to do now. Okay, they are trying to internalize all those social costs. Okay, how do United Nations make firm internalize the social cost? One of the way that they have done is they introduce carbon tax. Okay, so if let's say the firm pollute, what is going to happen? Then the pollution is going to be in this, cost. Okay, if there is pollution, this cost is going to go very, very high. Okay, and then it's going to make the firm is going to consider the pollution cost. Okay, so what the United Nation and what all these uh, Western countries is trying to do is in a way moving into the Islamic solutions. Okay, where it internalize all the social costs. Okay, assuming that the social cost is not is permissible. Okay. Yeah, because there will be later on questions about, okay, is pollution permissible or not? Okay, so if pollution is not permissible, then you cannot even use the resources for you to produce the product. Okay, so previously I've talked about profit maximization, where we assume that firm try to maximize profit. Okay, in Surah At-Taubah, Allah say, see, if your fathers, your son, your brothers, your wife, your relative, wealth which you have obtained, commerce wherein your fear decline, and dwelling with which you are pleased are more beloved to you than Allah and his messenger, and jihad in his cause, then wait until Allah execute his command, and Allah does not guide the defiantly disobedient people. So in the ayah, Allah mentioned trade, commerce, okay, because it is human nature. Okay, so you can do business, okay, but it should not be greater than the love for Allah. So but then how does it relate to profit maximizations? Okay, so in here it does not say that profit maximization is bad. Okay, profit maximization is not shunned. Okay, it should be treated as a means to serve the goals of human creation, which is to serve Allah. Okay, so why is it that we need to have profit maximizations? Okay, because when we are producing product, we do not want to have wastage. Okay, when we produce products, we want to produce in an efficient manner. Okay, when we produce in an efficient manner, if there is no waste, okay, so naturally the firm is going to maximize profit. Okay, and from the other side, when the firm maximize profit, it's going to produce products in an efficient manner. It will not waste the resources that is given to the firm. Okay, what if the firm is not profit maximizing? If the firm is not profit maximizing, there will be inefficiencies. There's going to be waste. Okay, when people come to work, instead of working, people are talking. So there's wastage, there's inefficiency. So in economic theory, we have this concept of duality. Okay, so maximizing utilities is going to equal to minimizing expenditure. So in a way, it's similar over here. When the production is efficient, okay, there is no wastage in the production, you are going to get a maximum profit. And when you maximize profit, your production need to be efficient. There shouldn't be any wastage with regard to your production. Okay, and production of goods and services must be viewed as a means to for you to attain falah. Okay. Okay, so for the producers, okay, when the producers is making decision, okay, when the producers is maximizing profit, okay, the producers in a way is rational. Okay, So it is not rational for the producers to be inefficient. It's not rational for the producers to waste products. And for the producers in producing, okay, the producers should not produce a prohibited good. Okay, uh, the producers in producing goods going to see whether the goods that they produce are goods that are required, or the goods that are that more of a luxury for the consumers that you have in the economy. Okay, and another few things that we have to look at with regard to productions. Okay, before we conclude. Okay, so you have the firm using hiring resources to produce goods. Okay, and after hiring the resources, the firm is going to sell the good in the in the products market. Then come the questions: what are the goods that need to be produced by the firm? Okay, so from previous slide, okay, the first thing is that the good has to be halal. Okay, so again we are talking about serving Allah. Okay, so but that's not just the only thing that we have to that is of concern to the firm, that the good or services have to be halal. Okay, but for the state also have to look at the hierarchy of the good that is produced. Okay, the goods that are produced in an economy. Okay, if we follow the maqasid of Sharia, there are three different category of good. So we have the necessities, convenient, the luxuries, the daruriyah, the hajiyah, and the tahsiniyat. Okay, so for the firm, yeah, if you just look at from the perspective of the firm, and the firm want to maximize profit, the firm will want to produce goods that's going to give them the going to give the firm the highest profit. Okay, but the state must also assume responsibility to ensure that the necessities good, the daruriyah good, are produced in sufficient quantity. Okay, so if let's say you have all the firms in the economy produce luxuries good, okay, the tahsiniyat, okay, assuming that all the firm do not know, okay, that they are the necessities good have was not produced. So the state, okay, have the responsibility to direct the firm, saying that, okay, this necessities good have to be produced. So let's say you are talking about firms that are producing cars. Okay, saying that producing BMWs going to give the highest profit, you have all the firm produce BMWs. Okay, but the firm have the responsibility to tell the automobile companies, you need to produce a daruriyah car, or the daruriyah transportation, okay, rather than just the luxuries transportations. Okay, what's the daruriyah transportation? Maybe the car, maybe the firm, instead of just producing all these luxury cars, okay, the firm need to think about how to produce buses. Okay, the firm need to think about how to produce cars that will have the transportations that going to help the poor. Okay, so those are the hierarchy in the production. In fact, if you look at car companies, usually car companies or automobile companies going to produce automobile from the cheaper segment up until the most expensive segment. Okay, so if you look at Toyota, okay, Toyota produce a cheap cars up until more expensive cars. Okay, they used to. I'm not sure whether they still have the Lexus brand or not. So the Lexus brand is the luxurious brand. Okay, and then you have the necessities cars that is much more much cheaper. Okay, so back to the rules of social welfare in the production decisions of the firm. So we know that as an Islamic firm, they know that their rules is the main objective is to serve Allah, to achieve falah. Okay, in making decision, they have to look at the social welfare part of their production decisions, and what is going to be the impact of their production to the to the economy, whether it's going to be good or it's going to be bad. Okay, or it's going to be something that is balanced. Okay, so from the theoretical side, so again, when we talk about the total cost, the firm will have to look at the total cost, not just the cost to the firm, but also the cost to the the cost to the society. Okay, so if the firm are able to do that, then we are going to have less, okay, of the issues that we have currently. Okay, issues of poverty, issues of inequality, issues of pollution. Okay, so now what are the differences with regard to the mainstream productions and then Islamic production? Okay, so when we talk about mainstream production, we have a firm that is rational, a firm that is maximizing profit, a firm that when it make decision, it is not guided by Quran and Sunnah. Okay, but you do have some firms that are guided by their religion. Okay, you have firms that are guided by the Christian religion. You have firms that are guided by Buddhist religion. Okay, but from a mainstream neoclassical perspective, when the firm is rational, okay, the firm's going to have the preference. The preference going to come from anywhere. Okay, yeah, where the firm's going to have is going to look at what is the impact of their decision on the society. Okay, but if we are looking at a production from an Islamic perspective, the firm is guided by Quran and Sunnah. Okay, so the rationality of the firm that is guided by Quran and Sunnah, okay, that the firm is going to ultimate aim is to serve Allah, ultimate aim is falah. Okay, the success in the world, in this world and hereafter, the firm know that they are Khalifah. So because they are Khalifah, okay, then they have trust to improve the world. Okay, so when they are Khalifah, they are given amanah, okay, to produce rahmatan lil alamin. So their profit maximization decisions going to think about the cost that they are going to the cost that the society is going to incur when they make decision. So their production function, their cost function will include those negative externalities. Whereas when we look at from the mainstream perspective, the production function and the cost function will not include the negative externalities. Okay, but recently, what is happening? What all these international organizations try to do in order to reduce pollution? Okay, they are following the Islamic economics ways of trying to solve this pollution issues by trying to internalize the cost into the cost function of the firm. Okay, so with that, I guess that's it for today. So I'll take questions, okay, from people who have been raising their hand, okay, since the early part of the lecture.
All right. Thank you, Prof, for your sharing. a very informative lecture indeed. So let's take some questions from the floor. The first one, how can Muslim countries apply Islamic economy in this contemporary world?
How can they apply Islamic economy? Let just use okay, rather than trying to change the whole system. Okay, what can be done in a simple ways, and trying to use current economic instruments that we have. Okay, one of the things that a lot of Western countries have, so that firms going to internalize the social cost that they are going to that's going to happen. Okay, so what can, because we know not all firms, even though they are in a Muslim countries, that they are going to behave Islamically. Okay, so the question now is how do we change the Islamically? Okay, so what the Western countries have done is they have internalized the cost. Okay, how do they internalize the cost, especially when you talk about pollutions? One of the way that they have done, they have introduced carbon tax. Okay, they have a lot, and they have done a lot of pollution trading, so that firm is going to internalize. So in a way, we have that similarity with the with Islamic ways of Islamic theories ways of how to solve the issues. But then you have the issues. Can we trade pollutions? Okay, can we trade something that is not good? So I'm not sure whether these have been solved, okay, from the Sharia perspective or not. Okay, but these the tradings of pollution, okay, where the costs are internalized, have reduced some level of pollution in the Western countries. Okay, so, and another thing that is very important for sure is education. So if we look at the SDG, one of the things that they have done is they have introduced the education for sustainable development. Okay, where they are pushing all schools, all higher learning institutions to have this education for sustainable development. So similarly, if we are talking about Muslim countries, so we have to push for Islamic ways of trying to solve all these economic issues. Okay, the thing is that you have a lot of Islamic countries don't even have courses on Islamic economic. In a lot of universities in Islamic countries, there's the courses they are taught are conventional economic courses rather than Islamic economic courses. Okay, so that is just some of the things that can be done lah. Yeah, because you cannot talk about changing the whole system, the whole entire system in a few days or in a few years. It's going to take some time.
All right, thank you, Prof, for your response. I have a following up questions to that. More or less similar question, but perhaps this one from a micro perspective. How can we ensure that manufacturing companies owned by Muslims can apply this concept practically, considering the high rates of pollution nowadays and also the objective of profit maximization?
Yeah. So back to okay. When we start the lectures, I think one of the things that we talk about is what the ultimate aim is to, and the ultimate aim is to serve Allah. The ultimate aim is falah. Okay, so when we talk about profit maximization, okay, we are not just talking about profit. Uh, okay, we are not just talking about profit from the money sense. Okay, when we talk about profit, we are talking about profit that is holistic. Okay, so we are not just talking about when we talk about profit, we have to maximize your income. Okay, so if you have Muslim firm, okay, that behave Islamically, okay, and when they talk about profit maximization, okay, so in the end, okay, they are going to look at what is going to be the impact of their productions to the environment, the effect of their production to the economy. Okay, in fact, not just we don't even need to look at Muslim firms. Okay, if we look at Ben and Jerry's in Israel, so what they have done, they try to stop their businesses over there because they think that what is happening in Israel with regard to the Palestine is not something that is right. Okay, so they when they talk about when they think about profit maximizations at that time, they are not just looking at the income that are going to get, okay, but they are looking at something that is much bigger. So if let's say all the firms are behaving Islamically, we are not going to get into those issues. Yeah, in fact, we have a lot of cases now. Example in Malaysia. Okay, uh, if let's say a bank see that a firm is polluting, what the bank's going to do? The bank uh, will not finance the company. Okay, when I talk to a lot of CEOs, yeah, in coming up with the SDG roadmap in Malaysia, okay, one of the things that I ask is what is the role of the bank, okay, in trying to improve the economy, in trying to improve the environment. Okay, what they say is that, okay, they are going to be looking at the firm. Okay, if the firm is polluting, then we are going to penalize the firm. It's not just one bank, but we are talking about an association of bank in Malaysia, and you have a lot of things, similar things, have their own standard. Okay, so when we talk about profit maximization, okay, so it's not just the income, but in fact, when we look at the economy as a whole, and when we have all this, when we have a collective is trying to improve the economy, okay, those who are not doing doing it in the right way, okay, okay, will not be beneficial lah. So you may have firms that try to find ways to maximize profit in terms of income by polluting, but if they are caught, uh, they are going to be punished, okay, not just uh, by the government authority, but they will also be punished by the business authority.
All right. Thank you, Prof. All right. Next is there any guide for production like consumption? While in consumption is guided by moderate between tadbir and taksir. So do we have something like that for production?
The easiest way when we talk about profit maximization, we are talking about the production have to be efficient. Okay, so if a production is efficient, okay, when we talk about labor, okay, when you come to work, you have to work. Okay, when you come to work, you don't just chit chat. Okay, what you want to do when you are talking efficiency, okay, when you are talking about efficiency, there is no waste. Okay, when there is no waste, there shouldn't be any pollution. So when you have that efficiencies, then you are going to uh, okay, there's a lot of thing is going to be a lot of thing is going to be good. Okay, for sure there will be you can come up with different guideline. Okay, where in terms of moderation, okay, even when you talk about moderation from the consumption perspective, okay, what you want to do is you try to maximize your utility, okay, and moderation is look from that moderation is look from that perspective.
Okay. Also almost similar question, but this one from macro perspective, maybe. Islamic countries guided by the Islamic philosophy of production.
What is Islamic countries guided by Islamic philosophy of production? Oh, that's the question. Okay. So if Islamic countries are guided and follow that, then you will not have issues in a lot of Islamic countries lah. So so that I think that is clear.
Okay. Right. Given the Islamic perspective of production is different from that of conventional perspective, is it abnormal? Is it not abnormal to use the same criteria to measure GDP in Islamic and non-Islamic economies?
Yeah, so that's why you have a lot of Islamic institution and Islamic researchers is trying to come up with different ways to measure GDP. Okay. Okay. In fact, why is it that UN come up with the Sustainable Development Goals? Because we can look at the evolutions of GDP in the 1970s. You have the instead of looking at GDPs, we have people looking at Human Development Index, and there are a lot of other different index. Okay, but is GDP bad? The easiest way for us to make GDP Islamic, because there was a discussion I think a few weeks ago, when I have a discussion with some people at I think at the Department of Statistics. They are thinking about how do we calculate GDP from halal products and services. Okay, so one way is to look at products and services that have halal certificate, but you have a lot of products and services that do not have a halal certificate. Okay, but anyway, there are issues with GDP. Okay, and all countries in the world are using GDP. Okay, and GDP are used for different measures. So all so what is going to happen? The GDP will always be there, but we can complement GDP with different other different measures in trying to measure the performance of countries, okay, whether it is Muslim countries or non-Muslim countries. In fact, even non-Muslim countries, there are different measures of there are different ways of measuring well-being in those countries. Okay, in Malaysia, we even have happiness index to see people are happy or not. Okay, so anyway, there are a lot of different ways to measure well-being. GDP is just only one way, and different countries have been using different measures of well-being, okay, to see whether people are whether people are living in a good way or not.
All right, thank you, Prof. Since we are talking about GDP calculation and all, I'll just read this one question in relation to that. I think some part of it you have addressed it, but maybe you will give more explanation to it. Has there ever been a decisive efforts by any Islamic countries of the world calculating their GDP via strict Islamic principles? If yes, does it meet the general acceptability standards, particularly from the Islamic countries and other countries of the world? If not, why?
Not that I know of lah. Okay, but when we come up with this for Malaysia, we have this shared prosperity vision 2030, which is a long-term development policy. Okay, so one of the things that we have done at that time, okay, but I don't think it was published. Okay, what we have done is we try to calculate what is the output from uh, what is the GDP of the Malay in Malaysia. Okay, and when we talk about Malaysia, uh, Malay are Muslim. Okay, and uh, all the other ethnicity are most of the other ethnicity are non-Muslim. So in a way, what we have done at that time is try to calculate what is the GDP of Muslim. Okay, but GDP of Islamic products I'm not sure there is any lah. Okay, and why is it? I don't think because most of the time people the country is going to prioritize what are the things that are important. Okay, in terms of GDP, there are a lot of issues with regard to the calculation of GDP. So a lot of things that are not that are not calculated. Okay, so most probably, if my conjecture is that why is it Muslim countries are not looking at that, because uh, it may not be one of their priorities at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. I'm gonna combine these two questions by two different person, because I think it is under the same context, right? Is the demand and supply is Islamic economics law? How does the theory of demand and supply give positive impact on Islamic perspective on the third world nation?
Okay, how does theory of demand and supply? Okay, one is I have to start with what do we mean by model, because demand and supply is just a model. Okay, trying to explain the economic behaviors in a country. Okay, and when we look at model, okay, model will not may not the model will not capture everything. So that's why in one of the slides that I have, I show the pictures of model airplane. So when you look at the in the pictures, there is a model like an airplane that look exactly like an aeroplane. Okay, that you put on your table. Okay, but that model airplane that look exactly like an airplane are not able to fly. Okay, and then there is also the pictures of radio control airplane. Okay, that radio control airplane may not look exactly like an airplane, but it can fly. Okay, so when we look at the model, what the model try to do, the model try to capture the essence, okay, of what you are trying to explain. Okay, and then left a lot of other things outside of the model. Okay, so the demand and supply model. Okay, okay, so you have two sides. Okay, you have the one side is the demand side, one side is on the supply side. Okay, so I'll try to concentrate on the supply side. Okay, so when we look at it from the supply side, because we are looking from the production side, so the supply, the demand and supply model mainly looking at a situation where you have a competitive market. Okay, so when we look at the supply, the demand and supply model, the simple demand and supply model, we are looking at a situation where we have a competitive market. Okay, and when I talk about this the production of the supply curve, okay, I also say that there are four different type of market structure. So you have the competitive market, you have monopolistically comparative, you have the oligopolistic market, you have monopolistic market. So the monopolistic market, the oligopolistic market is not captured by that demand and supply model. Okay, even the monopolistically competitive market is not really captured by the demand and supply model. Okay, the demand and supply models are mainly for the competitive market. Okay, so then the question now, how does it relate to the Islamic countries or non-Islamic countries? So I don't think there is a need to differentiate between Islamic and non-Islamic countries. Okay, so when we talk about the demand and supply model, we are looking at just one specific market structure. Okay, so and a lot of different market structure will not be able to be captured by that demand supply model. That demand supply model have a lot of different assumption with regard to the behavior of the firm, behavior of the peoples in the market. So if the behavior of the firm and the behavior of the people in the market follow that assumption, then you should be able to use that demand and supply model to forecast, to figure out what is going to happen to price and what is going to happen to quantity. Okay, but when we look at a lot of Islamic countries, a lot of the market are not competitive. Okay, a lot of the market okay, you have a lot of political intervention. Okay, you have a lot of, okay, when I talk political intervention, it's not just the politician. Okay, so you also talking about you have firms that are small, you have firms that are big, and that big firm may have more powers. Okay, so because of all the complexities that you have in the world, the application, okay, can be done if you have the countries, or you can have a situation, not the country, you have a situation where most of the assumption in the demand and supply models are followed. Okay, but most of the time the demand and supply models, the assumption are not able to be followed. So that's why we can go back to that trickle down. When I start the lecture, I talk about the trickle down effect. Okay, the idea is that, okay, when if market are competitive, if the demand and supply model can be used, you will have this trickle down effect. Okay, if all the firms that you have in the economy have the same power, so you will have that trickle down effect. Okay, when the rich become richer, the rich is going to invest, and then it's going to help the poor. Okay, but the thing is that in the real world, you don't really have that. Okay, so when you don't really have that, okay, then you have to look at the situation. Some situation you can use that demand and supply model. Okay, in a lot of other situation, you are not able to use that demand and supply model, where you will have to look at, okay, the context. Okay, what are the model that you need to use. Okay, very long answer.
All right, maybe Prof, one more question in which I will just combine these three questions because I think you can just maybe answer this briefly. Firstly is, could you elaborate more on what revenue is? And then what is the Islamic perspective on loss? And from the Islamic perspective, how should producers share their profit?
What the Islamic perspective on loss? Is that the question?
Yes. So first is, can you explain on what is revenue?
Okay, so revenue
Second,
is
what?
revenue is just what the firms get from basically the sales of the firm. Okay, so what is the price and how much you sell lah? What is the quantity that you sell? Then you have the revenue.
Okay. All right. So what is the Islamic perspective on loss?
I don't really understand the question. What is Islamic perspective? So I'll just try to I guess what does it mean? So one of the most important thing, if you are talking about the operation of the firm, okay, all the firms in every countries are regulated, okay, what they can do and what they cannot do. So when I mean regulate, so the law can be the uh, apa nama ni, the law of the countries lah. Okay, or and the law can be the Sharia, okay, where okay, where the firm may not be persecuted. If you are talking about the law of the countries, if the firm are doing something that is wrong, they are going to be persecuted. So, but in the end, from an Islamic perspective, they will have to follow both the the law of the countries, okay, and then they also have to follow the Islamic law or the Sharia, because some countries the Sharia uh, is not something that is formal, but in some countries the Islamic law is something that is formal. For countries that the Islamic law is not something that is formal, and Islamic firm will still have to follow still have to follow the Islamic law. It's not just the law of the countries.
Okay, briefly, Prof, how should producers share their profit based on Islamic perspective?
How it's going to depend on the contract. There's a lot of different contracts with regard to sharing. Okay, so you have your what? Murabaha, you have your musyarakah and all those different contracts. And usually the contract is going to going to specify what need to yeah, how the profit is going to be shared. Okay, and I don't think there is any, okay, whether because you are talking about profit. Okay, so let me just make it much broader. Okay, because the question is with regard to profit from a country's perspective. One of the things that countries going to look at is what is the share of labor in GDP. Okay, so one of the things that countries look at is monitored by a lot of international agencies is the share of labor in GDP. Okay, so why is this important? Why is the share of labor in GDP is important? Because it's going to tell you, okay, when a firm make profit, okay, how much of the profit is going to go to the workers, how much of the profit is going to go to the owner of business. Okay, so if the share of which in GDP is higher, then more of the profit is going to go to workers. So if we look at countries, in a lot of developed countries, uh, the share of wage in GDP is high in the Western countries, in developed countries, okay, where the share of wage for Muslim countries is much lower. So uh, so it is more Islamic in developed countries when you compare to when it's more developed in the Western countries, the non-Islamic countries, if you compare to Islamic countries. Okay, where the workers have more shares, where in Islamic countries the capitalists or the business people have more share. Okay, so what is good, okay, from a consumer uh, from a consumer perspective or from a worker's perspective is that more of the profit goes to them lah. Okay, but from the business perspective, more of the profit goes to the business owner. Okay, so what is the guide? I don't know. Okay, well, what should be the number? I don't really know. Okay, but if you look at the okay, so I think what can Muslim countries do? Muslim countries can try to benchmark with the non-Muslim countries. What is the share of what is the share of wage, what is the share of labors in GDP. So if they can increase that, okay, then okay, at least they are not worse than the non-Muslim than the non-Muslim countries.
All right. Thank you so much for your response, Prof. I think the Q&A has taken more than 15 minutes. Sorry for taking your time, but thank you so much. We really appreciate your inputs and knowledge shared with us. All right. Dear participant, I'm sorry that we cannot take any more questions due to the time constraint. But what you can do is that if you have any question and needs further clarification, you can approach Prof. Gairu through his email, which is provided in our brochure. Okay, the brochure you can get here. I shared the link of our website in the chat box, right? So once again, thank you, Prof.
Okay.
For your time. Okay, so dear participant, inshallah, we will continue. Let's take around 12 minutes break. Maybe we can start at 11:05 a.m. Malaysian time. Inshallah.
Okay.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi.
Right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back, my dear brothers and sisters. I hope you have had some time to perform your morning prayers, inshallah. So we will now listen to a lecture by Prof. Norma Saad on money and financial system and also the role of central bank and monetary policy. So before I pass over to Prof. Norma, let me read a brief background about our speaker today, right? So Prof. Norma, Professor Norma is a professor at our department, and also he is currently the director for Center for Islamic Economics, IIUM. Her areas of specializations are international trade, Islamic economics, specifically wakaf and zakat, and Islamic finance, specializing in Islamic microfinance. Her teaching and research have focused on Islamic banking and finance, intra-trade patterns of major economic blocs and their impact on regional integration. She is also actively doing research on the area of Islamic economics and finance, in investigating the efficiency of corporate entities in managing Waqaf institution in Malaysia and other selected countries. She also has been commissioned by the International Sharia Research Academy in Islamic Finance, ISRA, to conduct a study analyzing the current structure of Islamic banking in Malaysia to provide policy recommendation to the regulator of Islamic banking and finance in Malaysia. Apart from that, Prof. Norma has published several books and also numerous journals articles, right, in her area of specialization. Now I have the honor to invite our Prof. Norma to deliver her lecture.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Dr. Zira. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Is my voice clear? All right. So, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin, wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh to all the participants again, and very good morning. So the topic that is given to me to cover today is, at least for this session first, would be money and financial system. Yeah. Sorry, I don't have the nice background that Dr. Zira is using. So somehow my device does not support the virtual background. But I have at least I have the slides here. Yeah, for the participants. So all right. In terms of the for topic today, money and the financial system. This would be the how do I move? Just a second. Yeah. My slides is not moving. Okay. All right. So this is the outline for the topic. So I have quite a number of subtopics to cover for this main topic given to me. So first we will be looking at the definition of money. Yeah. So what is money actually, and what is the function of money? Yeah. What is the role of money? Yeah. And then what are the types of money that are available in the system? Yeah. And then how money is created, yeah, in the current system that most of the economy is operating. So we have a look at the definition of money, and then the functions and the type of money, how money is being created. Then we'll be looking at the financial system. Yeah, financial system where the money is being channeled into different agents and units. Yeah, in the economy. Yeah, so I've defined the basic concept of the financial system, and then we'll be looking also at the structure and components of the financial system. and then making comparisons, yeah, between conventional financial system and the Islamic financial systems, at least in terms of the ideals, yeah, of the Islamic financial system, and how the what are the problems brought about under the conventional financial system, and then of course we'll be looking at the Islamic financial system as a better alternative, yeah, to the conventional one. All right. So, what is money? Yeah, what is the definition of money? So previously, money was not in existence. Yeah. When, for example, people want to survive, they would just produce goods on subsistence level. Yeah. So there was no trade. Yeah. When the exchange of goods and services between individuals, for example. So the role of trade is actually very important in or exchange of goods and services is very important to improve the well-being of the society. Yeah. When the society was operating at the subsistence level, they just produce enough for them to consume. Yeah. So they are living, for example, on day-to-day basis, because it takes time to, for example, to plant vegetables, to go fishing, you know, to get fish, to rear, for example, your chickens and other animals in order to get some meats. So this takes time. Yeah. So the production in the form of subsistence levels does not permit, for example, in most cases, agents to or individuals to produce at a surplus, yeah, surplus units. So it is an inefficient. Yeah, the production at the subsistence level is an inefficient because the individuals would produce what they only need. Yeah. So in order for the society to progress, there need to be an exchange of goods and services. Yeah. In the society, there need to be a trade. Yeah. So what the society have done before the introduction of money, in the ancient period, barter system was being used. Yeah. So barter system is actually direct exchange of goods and services without the use of money. Yeah. So barter system is difficult to be practiced and then to prosper and to allow many transactions because it requires the double coincidence of ones. So what do we mean by the double coincidence of ones? So for example, let's say I have tea, yeah, but I don't have sugar. So in barter system, I need to go and find a person that has sugar and also willing to exchange tea with me. Yeah. So I have, assuming that I have extra tea. Yeah. So that individual also has extra sugar. Yeah. So that individual must be willing to exchange my tea in exchange for sugar. So this is what we call the double coincidence of ones. So you can see that it takes some time for us to search, yeah, to search for this individual and for this double coincidence of ones to occur. So the search cost in the barter system is very high. Yeah. So that's why many transactions would be impossible. Yeah, under the barter system. So it is necessary to introduce money. Yeah, to introduce money for the society to progress or to prosper. Yeah. So in order to allow, for example, the exchange of goods and services without the search or for the double coincidence of ones. Yeah. So that's why money was being introduced. So historically, people use rocks, yeah, leather, salt, or shells as money. Yeah. So something that has value to them. Yeah. So later it was being replaced with precious metals, normally specifically gold and silver. Yeah. So was when countries were using gold and silver, during this period. So this system was called bimetallism. Yeah. So in Europe, for example, silver dominated as money up to the 13th century. Yeah. And it was later replaced with gold after that. And then the further development of money. So now instead of using precious metals, gold or silver, they deposit these precious metals with some trustee. That trustee can be a bank, not a bank, maybe small financier, yeah, people with who are wealthy, or it can be goldsmith, for example, yeah. And so they deposit these precious metals with the trustee and use the paper deposit certificates instead. Yeah. So rather than carrying, for example, gold and silver, because it can be quite heavy. Yeah. So they use paper deposit certificates. Yeah. And this certificate can be convertible to gold at any time. So let's say that the person who carries this certificate wants to convert into gold, so they would go to this trustee and convert it, yeah, into gold. And the development after that is that the certificate is, for example, evolved into fully covered paper money. Yeah, but this paper money is again convertible to gold. Convertible to gold, because during the fully covered paper money, silver has been phased out. Yeah, so basically, at least before 1971, the US dollar was fully convertible into gold. Yeah, with gold. Yeah. Then further development of money, this fully covered paper money is being replaced with fiat money. Yeah, fiat money system. Yeah, so fiat money system is actually the current system that we are using. Our paper money now is basically just a piece of paper. It is no longer convertible to gold anymore. Yeah, so that is the evolution of money. Yeah. So what is money? What is the definition? Yeah. What is money being? How is money being defined? Yeah. So basically, the definition of money is that it is anything that is generally accepted. Yeah. In payments for goods and services. Yeah. So when we buy or sell things, we pay with let's say a medium that is acceptable, yeah, by both the buyer and seller. So that is called money, yeah, or anything that is acceptable to pay our debts, yeah, to pay our debts. So if we borrow money from someone and we want to pay it, so we pay it in a form that of an object or commodity that is acceptable by the borrower, by the lender. Yeah, so that is also considered as money. Yeah, so money is not only restricted to notes and coins. Yeah, but it also includes, for example, demand and savings deposit and many other things. Yeah, so there is there is definition of broad money as well. Yeah, so but in here I just limit it to, let's say, notes and coins, and then demand and saving deposits first. Yeah. So for example, let's say nowadays we can, if we have saving deposits at a bank, we can we don't have to withdraw our money to buy things. Yeah, we can just for example, let's say transfer our savings from our account to the seller, for example. Yeah, and also if we have demand deposit or current account, yeah, so meaning we have checks, yeah, or checking account. So we can also use checks to pay for our purchase. Yeah, so we don't have to use notes and coins only. So basically, anything that is permitted and I mean the object that is permitted and acceptable from Islamic perspective can function as money. Yeah. As long as it acts in the interest of the public and the maslahah of the public, and it does not cause harm to the society. Yeah, so this can be, for example, accepted as money. So what are the functions of money? Yeah, so these are the four main functions of money. So the first one is the medium of exchange. So money serves as the medium of exchange to avoid the inefficiency of the barter system. Yeah. So using money, we exchange for goods and services indirectly. Yeah, not directly like in the barter system, because we know that in the barter system there is high transaction costs. Yeah, so there has to be double coincidence of ones. We have to the time that we have to spend to search for the individual. Yeah, is also taken into account. Yeah, so this will, for example, the barter system. That's why barter system is not preferred, because it has high transaction costs. Yeah. With the money serving as the medium of exchange, it will increase the volume of transactions. Yeah, because for example, by using money as a medium of exchange, it promotes efficiency to the different economic units. The different economic units can specialize, yeah, in productions of goods and services. They can produce more than what they actually need. Yeah. For example, if I have, for example, if I'm producing some goods, for example, let's say I'm a producer of pencils. Yeah. So I can produce more pencils than what I need, and then sell these pencils, for example, using money. Yeah. To other people, other individuals that cannot produce pencil, but they can produce something else. But I don't need their the object that they are producing, or the commodity that they are producing. So with money, we just exchange goods and services using money as a medium of transaction. Yeah. So there is with money there is indirect, yeah, exchange of goods and services. So this will fulfill the demand of the modern economy. Yeah, because economic agents can specialize. The second function of money is that it acts as a unit of account. Yeah, unit of account. So it has money has a standard numerical unit. Yeah. So basically, if we look at any note, yeah, any note, so it would, for example, state what is the value, yeah, of that note. In Malaysia, so the currency is in ringgit. Yeah, so there is a 1 ringgit note, 5 ringgit note. Yeah, we know that there is a, for example, the value, yeah, that we can buy using 1 ringgit note and 5 ringgit note. For example, that is the commodity that are being sold in the market, yeah, at a particular price. And then the function of money is that it acts as a store of value. Yeah. The value of money must remain stable. Yeah. Otherwise, it cannot be accepted as a means of payment. So, for example, let's say if we have 50 ringgit note today, tomorrow it will still have the same value. Yeah. So this is very important. Yeah. Otherwise, if the value changes, then it will not be a stable form of money. It cannot function as money, or it cannot be accepted as a means of payment. Yeah. So, for example, let's say maybe if we want to have foodstuff as money, for example. So again, because the value of foodstuff that are perishable will be different. Let's say from today compared to tomorrow, for example. Yeah. So today it might be good, but tomorrow when it is perished, it is no longer, it does not have any value anymore. Yeah. So foodstuff is not an ideal form of money. Yeah, because the value does not remain stable. Okay. And then the fourth function is that it acts as a standard of deferred payment. Yeah. So meaning here to pay debt. Yeah. So and it must be a reliable standard for the payment of future obligations. Yeah. For example, let's say if we are for example buying something on credit, And we want to make payment for that credit sale. So it must be something that has, for example, certain standards, and then in terms of value also, it doesn't decrease. Yeah, it doesn't decrease if we pay using that money. Yeah, so that money is still good. If let's say we are paying, if we get the credit sale today for 50 ringgit, we want to pay it maybe in 1 week. So the 50 ringgit that we pay in 1 week is still a good 50 ringgit. Having the same value. Yeah. Again, it must this money must be accepted in the settlement of debt. All right. So money has to have certain characteristics, yeah, or attributes in order for it to function effectively. Yeah. So number one is that it must be durable. So when we say durable, we mean that it would last long without being worn out. So let's say the paper, especially for paper notes, yeah, because it is made of paper, but money is not made of just normal paper. Yeah, it is not easily torn or worn out. For example, let's say sometimes we forget to take out let's say our notes from our pocket when we do laundry, for example. Yeah, so when we take out our clothes from the machine, for example, if there are notes in that pocket, the notes are still intact. It is not being torn or worn out, for example, because it is made of special material, yeah, special paper material. To be portable, it must be mobile and easy to carry. Yeah, it must not be heavy. Yeah, if for example, in the earlier periods when people were using, for example, rocks, shells, so these are bulky. Yeah, so when we it becomes bulky. Yeah, so it is not easy to carry, or it's not mobile anymore in large quantity. Yeah, that's why after sometimes rocks or shells is not an ideal form of money either. Yeah, because it does not have this characteristic. And then money must be divisible. Yeah, so it can be divided into smaller homogeneous units. Yeah, so for example, because to ease the transactions, yeah, the buying and selling or the exchange of goods and services. So for example, let's say if we have 50 ringgit a note, for example, and if we want to buy a cup of tea, which is around 2 ringgit, yeah, 2 ringgit. So that money is divisible. Yeah, we can exchange with smaller units, yeah, with the seller in order to buy a cup of tea, for example. Yeah, and then money must be uniform or homogeneous. Yeah, so it is standardized. So if it is uniform and standardized, it is easy to determine its value. Yeah, so if we look at the 50 ringgit note, we know this is 50 ringgit. Yeah, the value is 50 ringgit because it is written. Yeah, and also we know what we can buy from 50 ringgit, for example. And then money must be fungible. Yeah, so meaning that all monetary units must be of equivalent value. Yeah, so every 1 ringgit bill is worth 1 ringgit. So it is no different. Any 1 ringgit bill that we take is having the same value. Yeah, as well as having every 5 ringgit bill, yeah, is worth 5 ringgit. Yeah, not other value. So we can use all cash to pay for the same thing because the value is equivalent. Yeah? And another important characteristic of money is that it must not be easily counterfeited or fake. Yeah. So meaning that especially the note, yeah, the paper money must have some security features. Yeah. In order to deter or prevent for example, counterfeits. Yeah. For example, ringgit have that special filament. For example, looking like the aluminium filament that is inserted in it, and then also it has a certain let's say it is embossed, for example, yeah, with certain logo. So counterfeit, for example, is quite difficult, yeah, to for example, in order to maybe mimic these security features, yeah. All right. Now we move to the types of money. So what are the different types of money? So the original types of money that was in existence was commodity money. Yeah. So I have spoken earlier that there are various physical commodity money that was being used in different periods, yeah, in different periods. So in the society, yeah. So for example, it started with a stone, yeah, with shells, for example, with clay, and then iron bars, yeah. So you can look at the pictures here. This is the money, was the money used by the Srivijaya Empire, yeah, during the 17th and the 13th centuries. So Srivijaya Empire it was located in Sumatra, yeah, in Indonesia now. So within the Malay archipelago. I obtained this picture from the Malay Heritage Museum, yeah, of one of the local university here, University Putra, Malaysia. So you can see here that the iron bars, yeah, iron bars, and this is maybe nails, yeah, were being used as money, yeah. And later they minted coins, for example, from bronze, and then some use woods, yeah, and then later it evolved into the coins that is being made from gold or silver, yeah. So and basically the commodity money are the objects that have values, yeah, and value in their use, yeah. So this kind of object that is has been used as money, yeah. So in the Muslim world, the earliest currency in the Muslim world were precious metals, yeah. So consists of gold and silver, yeah. So for gold they call dinar, and silver they call dirham, yeah. So this money actually were not minted by the Muslims, yeah. So it came from Roman, yeah, Empire and the Persian Empire, yeah. So the two superpowers of the time, yeah. So the Muslim society adopted this money, yeah, and no changes were made, yeah, to the existing circulating foreign currencies, yeah. And also the Muslim society at that time did not mint any new coins, yeah. It was only later, yeah, that during the Umayyad Caliphate, for example, one of the Caliph minted the gold coins and make it standard. He made it standard for gold coins. So the gold content would be 4.25 grams, yeah. And for silver, it would have 2.975 grams of silver, yeah. And then money evolves from commodity money. It is now representative money. Yeah. So representative money. So is a money that is backed by gold or silver. Yeah. So commodity backed money. Yeah. So an example of representative money is, for example, during gold standard, yeah. So during gold standard, so bank notes are redeemable with gold, yeah. So for example, the US dollar was redeemable for gold before 1971, yeah. And then in 1971, they have what they signed a Bretton Woods agreement, where the US went off gold, yeah? So basically, why the US went off gold? Because the central bank, the Federal Reserve, was overprinting money. So why were they overprinting? Yeah. Basically, to one of the reasons is to cover for extra expenses of the government, and it started in basically during World War I. Yeah, they want to finance World War I, so they have to print more money. Yeah, so money in circulation is in excess of the gold reserve that they have, that the central bank, especially the Federal Reserve Bank, has. Yeah, so if, let's say, every money that is being circulated were to be converted into gold, the gold that is in reserve or in existence with the Fed will not be enough to cover it. So that's why one of the reasons that the US went off gold. Yeah. Then the evolution after that, the evolution of money after that would be fiat money. Under fiat money, basically the fiat money is what the kind of money that we have now. Yeah. So basically, it is made of paper. It does not have. It is not convertible into gold. It does not have any intrinsic value by itself. Yeah. But how does it derive its value? So it derives its value from a government decree. Yeah. From a government decree. Or government announcement or authority saying that all creditors must accept the money in settlement of debts. So the money, the fiat money, become legal tender. Yeah. So as for example, the medium, for example, of the exchange of goods and services, and also to settle debt. Yeah. So if, for example, let's say the legal tender in Malaysia is ringgit. Yeah. So if I owe people some money, for example, I owe Ali, for example, some 100 ringgit. Yeah. So when I go to Ali to pay my debt and I pay in ringgit, so Ali cannot refuse. Yeah, to take that 100 ringgit. So if he refuses, then I mean he can refuse, but in terms of my obligation to pay that to him, I have fulfilled my obligation because I have used the legal tender, yeah, to pay my debt to Ali. Okay. And fiat money system, fiat money is actually being accepted by majority of Muslim scholars. Including the OIC Fiqh Academy, they has come up with a fatwa or resolution accepting the use of fiat money, yeah, because of the current world system, monetary system, yeah, fiat money is being used, yeah. So if people agree to use certain object as a medium of exchange, then it is considered as money, yeah. So despite the endorsement of many Muslim scholars on the acceptance of fiat money that we are using today, there are some critics, yeah, of fiat money. So which argue that fiat currency is subject to exponential decay, yeah, because when there is an excessive increase in the money supply in the economy, it can cause an increase in price. So inflation would occur, yeah, when there is excess money supply. Yeah. For example, this author Makrizi cited that in the year 1404 Hijrah, half of the population of Egypt died from hyperinflation-related depression due to money mismanagement. I'm not sure whether this is correct or not, but this is cited by in Makrizi, even though it is, to me, is quite severe, yeah, in terms of the, for example, because it says half of the population of Egypt. Yeah, but again, we have published material, yeah, to show the danger of fiat currency. Further involvement of money, now money in terms of, for example, from commodity and then representative money, now it has evolved into e-money, electronic money. Yeah. And the development in finance technology has actually contributed to the evolvement of role of money. Yeah. For example, in the year 2013, the Bank of England has come up with a certain guideline or policy to for the establishment of digital banks. Yeah. So in the UK, there are several digital banks. Yeah. So digital banks are banks without having any physical branches, like the normal conventional traditional bank. Yeah. So the normal traditional bank. Yeah. So there are at least four. In 2013, yeah, at least four digital banks. Maybe now they have more. Yeah. And in the African region, also in Kenya, in Tanzania, for example, in 2007, a telecommunication company, Vodafone. M stands for mobile, Pesa is money. Yeah, in I think in Swahili. So it is a mobile phone-based money transfer. It is being used to give financing and microfinancing. Yeah. So in several countries in Africa. Yeah. Later the practice spread to other countries, other continents as well. Yeah. So to India and to Eastern Europe, for example, where the customers would deposit and withdraw money from a network of agents. So these agents can be retailers, for example, yeah, people who have shops and they apply to come in to become an agent. So customers, when they go to the shop to buy goods or whatever things that they need, they can also deposit money or withdraw money, yeah, from this system, from M-Pesa. Yeah. And further development of money is the cryptocurrencies. Yeah, cryptocurrencies. So this is no longer electronic money, but it is called virtual currency. Yeah. So the most famous cryptocurrency is Bitcoin. Yeah. So the transactions that involve Bitcoins would, for example, use the blockchain technology. Yeah. So later I will show there is a for example, a figure that illustrates how the transactions using Bitcoin. Yeah. So this Bitcoin was initially developed by Satoshi Nakamoto in 2009. Again, I mean, we do not know, there is no information whether this individual is real or it is a made up individual. Yeah, because there are quite, I mean, some weaknesses or uncertainties in terms of Bitcoin. Yeah, and so even the developer also, we are not sure. I mean, what is the background of this, the profile of this individual, for example. Yeah, but it was promoted that this individual developed Bitcoin as a peer-to-peer electronic cash systems in order to bypass the need to go to the financial institutions. Yeah, so basically to bypass the banking system. Yeah, so many of the virtual currencies or cryptocurrencies are issued privately. Yeah, so they are not a legal tender, meaning that it is not, for example, it is not regulated. It's not issued by the authority. Yeah, by the authority of any country. Yeah, so it is privately issued, and it is not a legal tender in some countries. Yeah, and the use of virtual currencies also. I mean, it's not. It is widely used, but not as widely used as the fiat currency. Yeah, and then we have what we call the credit money. So this is the broad definition of money. Yeah. So credit money includes all types of medium of exchange. Yeah. Coins, notes, demands, and saving deposits. So basically all types of money. Yeah. So credit money involves any claim against a person that can be used to purchase of goods and services. Yeah. So for example, let's say if we have let's say a savings deposits. Yeah. So again, we can use this to buy or purchase goods and services. Yeah. And credit money is also formed when banks, so when I say banks, I'm referring to commercial banks. Yeah. So when commercial banks create money through approving loans. Yeah. So this is again another form of how the money supply can be injected into the economy. That is through the commercial banks. Yeah. So when commercial banks create financing or approve loans, meaning that they are creating money. All right. So this is the figure that illustrate how what a transaction using Bitcoin is involved. Yeah. So the mechanism that is involved. So for example, let's say there is a buyer here, yeah, that has an account, yeah, an e-wallet of Bitcoin. So this e-wallet is being stored on either on a computer or on a smartphone, yeah, and this individual will be equipped with a private key, yeah, to that account. So it acts like a secret code, yeah, akin to the PIN number, yeah, personal identification number. So when he wants to buy goods and services, so he would enter this private code, yeah, and then a network of computer would verify the transaction, yeah. So the seller also will have a private code, yeah, that he or she will have to activate in a transaction when he wants to sell some goods and services, and he wants to receive payment in Bitcoin, for example, yeah. So both the buyer and seller will have to use the passcode, the secret code, yeah. So when the code has been, for example, settled by the network of computers, so there would be a unique address that is created for each transaction. Yeah. So then there will be a transfer of Bitcoins from the buyer to the seller, and also transfer of goods from seller to to buyer. Okay, now we go to money creation. Yeah? Money creation and fractional reserve banking system. So under fiat money, creation of money actually lies upon the central bank. Central bank is the highest monetary authority in a country. Yeah. So government of a country give mandate to the central bank, yeah, to conduct, for example, monetary policies and also to create money. Yeah. So in most country, the central bank is known as central bank of that particular country, central bank of Thailand, for example. Yeah. But in some countries, the name is different. Like in Malaysia, we call it Bank Negara Malaysia. Yeah. So in Indonesia, it's called Bank Indonesia. Yeah. So in addition to central banks having the power to create money, commercial bank also plays a significant role, yeah, in creating money under the current system, under the fractional reserve banking system. Yeah. So how is money being created under the fractional reserve banking system? And before we look at how money is being created, we want to know what is the definition of fractional reserve banking system. Yeah. So what is FRB? So FRB is a situation where the commercial bank needs to keep only certain fraction of the deposits of its customers as reserve at the central bank. Yeah. So the rest of the money can be loaned out. Yeah. They can use the balance to give out financing. Yeah. So and the central bank would use the required reserve ratio. Sometimes it is called also the statutory reserve ratio to manage. So this is basically an interest rate lah, or for example, not interest rate, the certain percentage, yeah, that would be that central bank would come up in order to regulate liquidity, yeah, in the economy. And also to regulate credit creation by the commercial bank. Yeah. So for example, let's say if a particular bank has a total of 100 million deposits, for example, and if the required reserve ratio is 10%, yeah, so the commercial bank would only need to keep 10 million as reserve at the central bank, and it can loan out 90 million, yeah, to new, for example, customers. So these figures illustrate the creation of money, yeah, the creation of money by the commercial bank under the current Federal Reserve banking system, yeah. So let's say that initially we have bank A, yeah. Bank A has a total deposit of 100 million. And let's say that the required reserve ratio is 10%. Yeah. So Bank A has to only deposit 10 million with the central bank as reserve, and they can loan out the 90 million. Yeah, 90 million to new customers. And let's say that Bank A loan out 90 million to Ali, for example. And Ali has this account, has an account with Bank B. Yeah, so Ali's account in Bank B will be deposited, will increase to 90 million. Yeah, so let's say that for simplicity purposes, this is the total deposit of Bank B. Yeah, so out of this 90 million, Bank B will only have to put as reserve 9 million. Yeah, with the central bank, and 81 million can be loaned out. Yeah, so let's say Bank B then loan out this money, 81 million, to Ahmad. And Ahmad has an account with Bank C. Yeah. So Ahmad's account is credited for 81 million. Yeah. So again, 1 million has bank. And Bank C can loan out this amount. Yeah. 72.9 million. So let's say that Bank C give loan to Sarah. Yeah? Sarah has an account with Bank D. So Sarah's account is deposited with the amount of 72.9 million. Yeah. Again, Bank D will have to keep as reserve only this amount and can loan out 65.6 million to another customer. Yeah. So this process will go on and on. So how much by the commercial bank? So what you do is that you take this amount. This is the original money supply in the economy, plus this, and this amount. You will come up with this amount. Yeah. So this is the total money supply created with the creation of loans by the commercial banks. And this process will continue to Bank E, F, G, and etc. Yeah. So how much money eventually will be created? If the initial money supply is 100 million and the required reserve ratio is 10%, the answer is, if we have the money multiplier and we have the, for example, we use this formula, the eventual increase in money supply would be 900 million. Yeah, 900 million. So the actual money is only this. Yeah, actual deposit is only this. So this is actually the danger of the fiat money. Yeah, because it gives the power to the commercial banks to create money, and default is inevitable. Yeah, in fiat monetary system, default is inevitable because the excess money here is electronic money that is created. Yeah, so inevitably some individual will have difficulty making payment. Yeah, so to the bank when they obtain loan. All right, now we go to the financial system. So what is the basic concept of the financial system? Financial system is actually an important part or integral part of any economy. Yeah, because why it is important? Because it facilitates the flow of funds between the economic agents. Yeah, so some economic agent would have a surplus of funds. Yeah, so they would want to invest this fund. So some have deposit, some have a deficit, for example. Some economic agents need money, yeah, in order to undertake investment. Yeah, so they need to borrow money. So the financial system would regulate this flow of funds. Yeah, yeah, in order to reallocate the funds to optimize, yeah, to optimize the production of goods and services in the economy. So eventually it will boost the real economy. Yeah. So without the proper financial system, economy will not be able to function effectively because funds are not being allocated to the at the optimal level. Yeah. The financial market connects investors and capital providers according to market forces, and then it effectively channel funds from the surplus units to the deficit units. So later, you will see this. You will see this, for example, figure. Yeah. So a healthy economy will depend on the efficiency of its financial markets. Yeah. So how effectively it can channel the funds to appropriate sectors. Yeah. So the financial market would have the entities that we call financial intermediaries. So what are the financial intermediaries? What are they consist of? So basically, these are commercial banks or non-commercial bank entities. Yeah. So for example, insurance companies or takaful company, unit trusts. Yeah. Or some in some countries it is called mutual funds, pension funds. Yeah. So the function of these institutions is that they would facilitate the channeling of funds. Yeah. From the surplus units to the deficit units. Yeah. So the surplus unit, sometimes it is household, and the deficit unit, sometimes it is businesses, but the role can change. Sometimes the household is in the categorized under the deficit unit. Yeah. Sometimes business is categorized under the surplus units. Yeah. So depending on their liquidity level, for example. Okay. So this is the diagram that shows the flow of funds in the financial system. So there is direct finance and indirect finance. So if the funds flow through financial intermediary, flow from the surplus unit to the deficit units through the financial intermediaries, so it is called indirect finance. Yeah. So because the surplus unit, for example, the household would have to have account with the banks, for example. Let's say one of the entities in the financial intermediaries is bank. So a household would need to have an account with a bank, savings account, investment account. There are many types of account. Then the bank will then, for example, channel this money. Yeah, if there are applications, for example, from the deficit units, maybe business firms, for example, yeah, companies who wants to undertake investment and they need money. Yeah, so this flow is an indirect finance. Yeah, but sometimes the surplus units would bypass the financial intermediation, would bypass the banking system, for example. So they would invest their funds directly to finance for example, the projects that are want to be undertaken by the deficit units. Yeah, so they would buy securities. Yeah, in order to finance the expansion of that business. Okay, so this is called direct finance. All right. So the structure and components of the financial system. So there are 4 components, yeah, of the under the financial system. The first one is called the financial institutions. Yeah, so these are the companies or entities, yeah, that is functioning as the financial intermediary. Yeah, so basically offering deposit products, yeah, deposit products, and also to, for example, mobilize funds from the public and then use these funds to in order to provide financing. Yeah. So financial institutions consist of let's say banking institutions and non-bank. Yeah. Non-bank financial institutions. So banking institution consists of commercial banks, investment banks, cooperative banks. Yeah. And non-bank financial institution consists of insurance, insurance, takaful, pension funds, unit trusts, etc. And there are markets under financial system, the financial markets. So there are two major markets and also other markets as well. So the first one is money market. So for example, interbank money market. So this is when where the commercial banks would borrow and lend. This is where the company would issue stock and bonds to raise funds when they want to undertake investment. Yeah, and there are other financial markets as well. For example, commodity market, foreign exchange market, where the foreign currencies are being traded, and also the derivative markets. Basically, these are financial products, lah. Yeah. And then there is development and social finance institutions. Development financial institutions can be locally based. It can be, let's say, is established by a particular country in order to ensure the economic development of that country. It can also be that a country development financial institution. And we also have multilateral, multilateral development. This is at the national level. At the international level, there is this international standard. For example, let's say we have Bank of International Settlement. Yeah. So these banks actually, the members of Bank for International Settlement consist of the central banks are all around the world. Yeah. So it acts as a standard setting body for the central bank. Yeah, and yeah, in terms of the regulation that it has adopted. Yeah. So there is also in the Muslim world, there are IOFI crisis. Yeah. So why it has created financial crisis? Because most of the instruments that are being used under the current financial system are interest-based. Yeah. So of course, I mean, the current financial system has its benefit. It is useful, but overall, critics have argued that the effect is quite harmful. Yeah. One of the danger of the current financial system is that it has the problem of financialization. Yeah? Financialization is the act of separating of financing from the real economic activities. Yeah. So this is actually the original intention of the establishment of commercial banks in order to finance the real economic activities, in order to produce goods and services. Yeah. But of late, there is an activity of the commercial banks that we call financialization, that is only concentrating on the finance industry. Yeah. So they do not create, for example, they create financial instruments in order to give financing to the finance industry, not the real not the real sector. Yeah, in order to produce goods and services. For example, let's say banks would give financing to customers to buy foreign exchange or foreign currencies, for example, to engage in speculation. Yeah. So again, this speculative activity does not contribute to the real economic activities, does not contribute to the production of real goods and services. Yeah. So it only, for example, evolved industry. Yeah, with no clear benefit. Excessive activities on financialization has actually contributed to frequent occurrence of the financial crisis. Yeah. So in the Asian region, the worst that we have known, the worst financial crisis that we have known occurred in the 1997 and 1998. Yeah. So in many of the Asian ASEAN countries. Yeah. So for example, both Malaysia and Indonesia were badly affected, including Thailand, the Philippines. Yeah. So in terms of the value of the currencies, yeah, in these countries have depreciated by a significant amount. Yeah. Due to partly the speculative movement, yeah, in foreign currencies, and also of recent crisis is the financial crisis in 2007 and 2008. Yeah, so which started in the US. Yeah, because again due to excessive financialization and commodification of debt. Yeah, basically selling a debt as a financial instrument. Yeah. So how to resolve these deficiencies of the conventional financial system? So the Islamic financial system has been introduced as a better alternative. Yeah. So Islamic financial system has an ideal objective. Yeah, has a lofty objective. So it envisioned to be closer to the real economy. Yeah. In contrast to the current financial system that is only making focus on the finance industry itself, yeah, not the real economy, not the real sector. Yeah. So and also the Islamic financial system is better positioned to serve the people, and because it will not, for example, neglect the people who are marginalized, the people at the bottom 40%, for example. Yeah. So it ensures higher social welfare. Yeah. Compared to, for example, the current financial system. However, in the system that we call Islamic financial system is not exists in the full in any country in the world. Yeah. So what we have here is, for example, the instruments only now that is available, not yet a full-fledged system. Yeah, because Islamic finance is still new. Yeah, so it was only like 10 or 20 years ago that Islamic finance began to increase its presence around the world. Yeah, even though maybe an Islamic financial institution have been in existence for like maybe 40 to 50 years, but it existed on an individual basis, not as a system yet. Yeah. So at the moment, Malaysia is one of the countries that is considered to be global leader, yeah, in Islamic finance, and it has world's considered to be world's most sophisticated market, yeah, in Islamic finance. So the establishment of the Lembaga Tabung Haji, or in English it is Pilgrims Management and Fund Board of Malaysia, in 1963. Actually propel and pave the way for the development of the Islamic finance in Malaysia. Yeah. So because after that, Malaysia has established its first Islamic bank, which is Bank Islam in 1983. So you can see that it took 20 years, yeah, even for Malaysia to establish its own first Islamic bank. Yeah. So what is the philosophy of the Islamic financial system? So Islamic financial system aims at facilitating the exchange of goods and services in the economy. So as I said earlier, mentioned earlier, so the aim of Islamic financial institution is to produce goods and services for the benefit of the society. Yeah, not to be, for example, engaging only in the finance industry, because in the finance industry only wealthy people are involved in the finance industry. Yeah, but in the real sector, all segments of the, for example, the society, all the economic agents are involved in the real sector. Yeah. So the Islamic financial system would not be neglecting the poor and the marginalized. Yeah. And In Islamic financial system, its conduct must comply with the Sharia principles, yeah, and it prohibits the interest-based dealings. Okay, and it also highly considers the social and ethical aspect of a transaction. Yeah, so it will not only look at, let's say, the only the profitability of the project would be considered, for example. Yeah, so other aspects, other ethical aspects or social aspects would also be scrutinized or looked upon. Yeah. And the other aim of the Islamic financial system is to achieve economic and social justice in the society. Yeah, so in order to, for example, not to have too much gap, yeah, between the rich and the poor, the have and the have not. Yeah, so of course inequality will always be there in any society. Yeah, but under the Islamic financial system, the aim is to try to reduce that gap. Yeah, to reduce that gap between the rich and the poor. Okay. And the essence of Islamic finance is the concept of risk sharing, yeah, rather than risk transfer or risk shifting as a practice in the conventional finance. Yeah, so the concept that is being embraced in Islamic financial system is being, for example, being promoted in the specific contracts in Islamic finance. I mean, the banks would be using mudarabah, sometimes would be using musyarakah. So these are the types of Islamic partnership contracts. Yeah, that are available. So under the concept of risk sharing, it actually enriches the brotherhood among the contracting parties. Yeah, because under the partnership contract, the contracting parties must share the risk. Yeah, must not only they share the risk, but they share also the returns together. Yeah, so it is not like the lender-debtor relationship in the conventional financial system. Yeah, when banks issue, for example, loan to a customer, for example, so the relationship would be debtor-creditor relationship, but not in Islamic financial system. Yeah, so the parties are partners. Yeah, so partners. So when they are partners, they would share the risk that are, for example, that they will face in the business, and the outcome of the business they will also share. Yeah, so if there are profits, for example, profits will be shared. If the business result in a loss, so the loss will also be shared by the partners. So these are the differences, yeah, distinctive differences between the Islamic and conventional financial system. Yeah. So in terms of the interest rate, under the Islamic financial system, it is prohibited, whereas under the conventional financial system, it is a core element. Yeah. So all transactions are based on interest in the conventional. In terms of the use of underlying assets, so in Islam, asset must be present, yeah, but not under the conventional. So ethical investment is a core value, yeah, is a core value under the IFS, yeah, but not under conventional. It's voluntary, yeah. So and gharar, yeah, one of the element that is prohibited in a transaction in Islam, uncertainty. Yeah. So in Islamic financial system, it is prohibited. Yeah. But under conventional, it is accepted. And profit loss sharing is the core principle. Yeah. Under the Islamic financial system. And but under the conventional, it is a choice. Yeah. So maybe only some companies or some banks under the conventional financial system would choose to adopt the profit and loss sharing concept, for example. And maisir or gambling in Islamic financial system is prohibited, yeah. But in the conventional system, it is accepted, yeah. So these are the Islamic financial instruments that is being used, yeah, by, for example, in the Islamic financial system by the commercial banks or the central banks. Yeah. So there are several. So the first one is murabaha, which is the cost plus or markup sale contract. So for example, let's say if a commercial bank want to sell a car, for example, to a customer, so want to let's say issue vehicle financing. So they would buy the car first, and then they would sell the car to the customer at a markup. Yeah, compared to, for example, conventional bank, they would just give financing to the customer and impose interest. Okay. Ijarah. Ijarah is equivalent to leasing. Yeah, in the Islamic financial instruments. Mudarabah is partnership contract. Yeah, so in mudarabah there are two parties. So one party take the role of the investor. So this person is called Rabul Mal, and the Rabul Mal would provide 100% of the capital. So the other party is the entrepreneur. Yeah, so the entrepreneur is called mudarib. So mudarib would manage, they would use the money and do the investment and manage the business. So profits from this business would be shared. Yeah, among the between the two parties. Yeah, based on the pre-agreed ratio. Musyarakah is another form of partnership. So under this type of partnership, it has more than it can be two parties, it can be more. So all the contracting parties must contribute to the investing capital on equal amount or non-equal amount. Yeah, and a profit also will be negotiated among the parties. Yeah. If there is loss will be borne according to the capital contribution, yeah, of the party. Qard Hasan is the benevolent loan that the financier give to the let's say debtor, and only the principal amount will be paid. There's no extra, yeah, being expected from the creditor. So the reward is not in the form of money. Yeah, the reward to the creditor is in the form of let's say the blessings, yeah, and Almighty Allah. And then there is also salam. Yeah, salam is actually a forward sale. Normally it is practiced in agriculture. So in salam, the payment is made in advance, and the delivery is made in the future date, which has been stated in the agreement, and the price also has been determined. Yeah. Istisna also is a forward sale, but istisna normally is session. So to either to construct, for example, a building, or to manufacture certain product, yeah, based on customers' specification. So the price of the contract must be agreed upon before the work starts. Yeah. So for example, if the customer is engaging with the bank to construct a house, so again the price must be agreed upon. Yeah. So payment can be if under salam, payment is made in advance. Under istisna, payment can be made is much more flexible. Payment can be made in advance, on progress, lump sum, or installment basis. Okay, so these are basically the instruments that banks can use under the Islamic financial systems. So this actually is the end of my first topic, right? So I would end these slides and then choose another one. I can continue straight away, right, Dr. Zira?
Yes.
There's no break, right?
Yes, you can, Prof.
Okay. All right. Okay, so the second topic is on the role of the central bank and monetary policy. So let me. All right. So this is the outline of the topic. So I arranged the outline backward compared to the main topic. So first, we will have to know what is monetary policy. Yeah, before we want to know what is the role of the central bank in establishing monetary policy, we have to know what is monetary policy. And we have to know also what are the types of monetary policy. And when government conduct different types of monetary policy, how does it impact the real economy? Yeah? And what are the tools that the central banks, the government through the central bank, can use in order to conduct monetary policy? So first, we'll be looking at the conventional monetary policy, the tools that are being used, and then the tools are being used in the Islamic monetary policy. And then lastly, we will be looking at the role of the central bank, yeah, in establishing the Islamic monetary policy. All right. So what is monetary policy? So monetary policy is actually just one of the component of economic policies. Yeah. For example, one of the role of the government is to manage the economy through economic policies. Yeah. So they can use many policies. Yeah. So they can either use monetary policy, fiscal policy, yeah, industrial policy, financial sector policy. So what are the tools of monetary policy? We'll be looking at the tools later. What are the tools of fiscal policy? So basically, fiscal policy, the government will be using a tax rate, and the expenditure in order to manage the economy through these tools. Government can also manage. Malaysia normally have the 5-year plan, for the financial sector. So now we know that monetary policy is only one of the components, of the economic policy. So what is the definition, of the monetary policy? So monetary policy is defined as an attempt to manage the money supply and demand with the use of monetary instruments and approaches in order to balance liquidity in the economy and also to stabilize prices. This is when the prices of goods and services keep increasing. So in other words, inflations are occurring in the economy. So the government can use monetary policy to stabilize prices. So basically, monetary policy is being used to tackle these two problems, to manage liquidity in the prices. But in some country, monetary policy is only being used to target inflation. Maybe instead of liquidity targeting, maybe that country has does not have a well-developed financial market, for example, in order to manage the liquidity. So they will be using the monetary policy only to target inflation. So the amount of money in the economy is very important because this flow of funds would, for example, determine how much goods and services that will be produced in the economy and the exchange of these goods and services. So if the amount of money in the economy is at the optimal level, so it will ensure the optimal amount of, for example, goods being produced and the also optimal amount of trade and exchange occurring in the society. So too much money in circulation is not good either, because it may result in inflation. The prices of goods are become so high. Basically, this phenomenon is what we call too much money chasing after too few goods. So the production of goods and services are not enough in the economy. But there are so much money that are running after these goods and services. So the prices of goods and services become very, very high. So this is not good. So we do not want to be in this situation. We do not also want to be in the situation where the money is too little. Because if the money is too little, then it may create deflation. The prices may plunge in the economy, and if we are the customer, we say it's good, yeah. But to the producer, it is not good, because if, let's say, if the price of a particular good plunges below even the cost of producing that good, then no suppliers would want to produce that goods, yeah, in the economy. So this would lead to recession. Okay, so we do not want to be in this too extreme situation. So what are the conventional monetary policy tools that are being used by the central bank to manage the liquidity in the economy, yeah? Or to manage money supply in the economy? So basically, monetary authority of a country can use open market operation. They can either buy or sell securities to commercial bank or to the general public, depending on what type of policy, monetary policy. The central bank can also use reserve requirement. So again, by now you already know reserve requirement is the regulation on the minimum amount of reserve, yeah, that banks must hold against the deposit and kept at the central bank. And then the central bank can use this to manage money supply. So discount rate is interest rate on loans that the central bank makes to commercial banks. So commercial banks borrow from central bank in order to fulfill reserve requirement. Yeah. So sometimes they don't have enough reserve for, let's say, if reserve required reserve is 10 million, but they don't have that amount, they would borrow from the central bank. Yeah. So another tool is term option facility. So this is used when the interbank money markets are under stress. Yeah. So if this situation occurs, then the central bank would auction term funds to depository institutions for them borrowing. Yeah. And then the other tool is interest on reserve. So this is actually the newest tool that is being used by the 2008 financial crisis. So how is this interest on reserve works? So basically, the Fed would pay interest on the excess reserve, yeah, on the excess reserve that is being deposited by commercial bank at the Federal Reserve. Yeah. So if, let's say, the required reserve is only 11 million. Sorry. So the required reserve is 10 million, and the commercial bank, maybe Bank of America, for example, deposit 11 million, paid interest, yeah, by the US Fed. Policy tools that can be used, yeah, by the central bank. What are the different types of? Basically, there are two types of monetary policy. The first one is expansionary monetary policy. Yeah? So this is a policy whereby the monetary authority would increase or expand money supply to boost the economic activities. Yeah? By keeping the interest rate operation. Yeah? So the central bank would buy securities. Yeah? So would buy securities. So when they buy securities, so they take away the papers from the investors and they give money. So money in circulation would increase. Yeah, would increase. So if money supply is increased in the economy, so this will encourage, for example, borrowing from companies. Yeah, companies would be able to borrow from commercial banks. Individuals also would be able to borrow, and banks would be able to borrow among banks. Yeah. But the timing of the expansionary monetary policy is also important. Yeah, the central bank would not normally adopt the expansionary monetary policy when the economy is booming, because it can cause inflation. Yeah, so normally the expansionary monetary policy is being carried out in order to tackle the problem of unemployment. Yeah, when the economy is in recession. Yeah, so this is when the central bank would conduct expansionary monetary policy. And the other type of monetary policy is contractionary monetary policy. So this is when the monetary authority want to reduce money supply. So they will keep interest rate high. Yeah. Or if they want to conduct open market operation, they would sell securities. Yeah. So when they sell securities, the investor would have to pay central bank. So central bank would take away money in circulation and give papers, security papers, yeah, to the investors. So this is normally done when economy is booming and inflation is becoming a problem. Yeah. So when the central bank wants to reduce inflation, so they would conduct a contractionary, yeah, monetary policy. So this will slow down the growth rate of the money supply in the economy. Yeah. All right, so we have seen the tools of the conventional monetary policy. So now let's look at the tools of the Islamic monetary policy. Yeah. So central bank, yeah, in the Islamic economy, again here we are talking in ideally there is no full-fledged Islamic economy in the world. Yeah, what we have now is just a complement. Yeah, an economy, Islamic economy, that is complementing the conventional, the much bigger conventional system. Yeah, so for the central bank that wants to, for example, use the Islamic monetary policy tools in the Islamic economy, they will have to ensure that these instruments are in line with Sharia. Yeah, and also these instruments, when it is being introduced and promoted, will bring benefits to the society, maslahah to the ummah. Yeah, and not the opposite. Yeah. And when we observe, for example, from the conventional monetary policy tools, we can see that most of the tools are actually interest-based. Yeah. So the discount rate, the required reserve ratio, the interest on excess reserve, these are all interest rate. Yeah, which cannot be used, for example, by central bank that wants to, for example, use the tools that are in line with Sharia. Yeah, because interest is basically prohibited. Yeah, so when we look at the conventional tool, only one is useful. Yeah, in Islamic economy, that is open market operation. Yeah, because this is the buying and selling of securities. Yeah, by the government. But even though in terms of buying and selling of securities by the government or the central bank must make sure that the securities traded are Sharia compliant. Yeah, it cannot be, for example, security that are for example, maybe structured based on interest. Yeah, so again, Sharia compliance is very important, yeah, in Islamic monetary policy. So the current development of Islamic money markets operations have actually paved the way to address some of the issues on the Islamic monetary instruments. So these are the Sharia compliant instruments that are being, for example, introduced by the Bank Negara of Malaysia. Yeah. In the Islamic interbank market that is operating in Malaysia. So number one is the Wadi'ah acceptance. Yeah? So the description of Wadi'ah acceptance is that it is being used by the Bank Negara, the Central Bank of Malaysia, to absorb liquidity in the Islamic interbank money market. So when there is so much surplus of liquidity in the Islamic interbank money market, and commercial banks are creating too much, for example, credit. So credit money is maybe an issue, become an issue because it is easy for banks to create money. So and the central bank wants to put a stop on it, so they can mop up this because they cannot just issue security and sell to the investor and pay interest, yeah, because this would be prohibited, yeah. So, but the way that is being done is that together with this security, the government would be selling assets to the investor, and the investor would be selling the asset back immediately to the government to include the principal amount and the profit, yeah. And then the government would issue debt certificate or the Shahadah Ad-Dain, yeah, Shahadah Ad-Dain, specifying that the government will be making installment payment, yeah, to the investors, which include the principal and the profit. Okay, and then the next one is the Malaysian Islamic Treasury Bills. This is also using the same concept by Al-Ina concept. But this is more on a short-term basis compared to the first one. GII is long-term, MITB is short-term. Yeah? And then we have the central bank Ijarah certificates. So this is a sukuk Ijarah issued by Bank Negara to Islamic banks. So, and the tenure normally lasts for 1 year. Yeah. So, for example, let's say under this instrument, the government again would sell, when government issues sukuk Ijarah, they would sell asset to Islamic bank. Islamic bank would then lease back the asset to the central bank. Yeah. So central bank would be paying lease or rental to the commercial bank and plus the principal as well. Yeah. Interbank instruments. So this is a mechanism whereby a deficit Islamic bank can borrow from a surplus Islamic bank based on the mudarabah concept. Yeah. So the period will range from overnight to 12 months. And the profit sharing is negotiable among the two parties. Yeah? So they would negotiate what would be the percentage of the let's say the profit from that investment going to the contracting parties. All right, and then the interbank musyarakah is actually the short-term restricted partnership. Yeah, so what we call the muqayyadah musyarakah. Yeah, or the other way around. This is when the banks, for example, pool their money together in order to lend money to the other bank that is having deficit. Yeah. And again, the profit sharing ratio will be negotiated among them and agreed upon, for example, before them signing the partnership or the contract. Okay, so these are basically the instruments that are being used in the Islamic monetary policy. So, what are the roles of the central bank in establishing the Islamic monetary policy? So these are the roles in order to achieve these 4 targets, yeah, or goals. One is to maintain economic stability. So what do we mean by to maintain economic stability? To harmonize the real sector and the financial sector. Yeah. So the central bank would oversee, for example, the operation of the commercial bank, and they will make sure that the duty is to make sure that the commercial banks will not favor any sector. Yeah. So they must the financing, for example, must be balanced. Yeah, for both the real sector and the financial sector, so that funds is being utilized in order to produce, for example, goods and services in the productive economic activities. Yeah. Number 2 is achieving macroeconomic targets. So when we say macroeconomic targets, so there are these 3 things, yeah, that all nations want to achieve actually. So to achieve price stability, yeah, so not to have high level of inflation. So an ideal one is between 2 to 3% inflation rate. Yeah. And then to have a high economic growth. Yeah. So again, all countries aspire to have high economic growth. Yeah. In their economy or in their country. And also all countries want to have full employment. Yeah. So when we say full employment, we don't mean 0% unemployment. So unemployment will still exist, but if it is between, let's say, 5% to 6%, it is acceptable. Yeah, it is considered as full employment. Okay. So the role of the central bank is to achieve this. Yeah, and to promote the real economic activities through the involvement of all economic agents. Yeah, because if, let's say, the central bank wants to tackle the problem of full employment. Yeah, so all of these economic agents need to cooperate. Yeah, need to do their part. For example, yeah. So the central bank would, for example, maybe perform or engage in expansionary monetary policy, for example. Yeah, so to increase money supply in the economy. So when money supply is increased, then perhaps the businesses or the suppliers, yeah, would, for example, undertake initiatives or take initiatives to expand their business and employ more people. Yeah, and they produce these extra workers would then produce more goods and services. Yeah, and these goods and services are then bought by the customers. Yeah, so that when all the economic agents or economic units in the society perform their function, these goals can be achieved. Okay. The third rule is using Islamic monetary instruments. So to manage the economic liquidity using monetary expansion and contraction by applying the Sharia principles. Yeah, in the basically the instruments that are being used. Yeah, and then lastly, to ensure the equality on the economic development. Yeah, so to determine that the project in the real sector are in coordination with the government and related authorities. So for example, let's say not only certain sectors are being highlighted or being focused, yeah, and other sectors are neglected, for example. Yeah, so when the economy is booming, for example, there is a tendency for commercial banks to focus on the giving financing in one sector, for example, the property sector, real property sector, because that is the most profitable. Yeah, so the role of central bank is to ensure that this will not occur. Yeah, or if it occurs in the beginning, they would have to create a policy to put a stop in this. Yeah, so as what Bank Negara has done. Yeah, in the, I think, early 2000s, when the property market is booming in Malaysia, and also it wants to it has to ensure that the development is not being focused in one particular area. Yeah, and only benefiting one state or one certain segment of the society, only benefiting, for example, the affluence in the society. Yeah, so this will not result in equality of the economic development. So it is the role of the central bank to ensure that this will not occur. All right. So actually, it is not easy for the central bank to use the Islamic monetary policy. Yeah, in order to manage liquidity or money supply in the economy, because basically the Islamic monetary policy is not yet full blown or fully developed. Yeah, so among the challenges of the central bank in order to, for example, use Islamic monetary policy is that number one, the international practice does not allow with the real sector investment activities. Yeah, so the International Settlement Bank, for example, that is based in Switzerland, maybe have this policy or rule that may disallow any central bank to engage in the real sector. So whereas under the Islamic financial monetary policy, it encourages the economic entity and central bank included to directly deal with the real sector. Yeah. But in reality, the central bank can only hold excess liquidity. Yeah. To manage the money supply, not to involve directly in the real sector. And number two, the challenge for the central bank is that the central bank is still in the, in most countries are still in the conventional setup. Yeah, it is neither a commercial authority nor a social or a charity authority. Yeah, whereas under the Islamic monetary policy, the position of the central bank is it has to be an active economic agent. Yeah, but this is difficult to be adopted. Yeah, for example, the rule that is envisioned by the Islamic monetary policy under the Islamic monetary policy is quite difficult for central bank to achieve. Yeah, as an active economic agent, even if a central bank, for example, some central bank issue sukuk under the Islamic monetary policy, this sukuk is not to directly finance the real sector, but the usage of this sukuk is for liquidity management. Yeah. And challenge number 3 is that monetary policy is commonly designed to manage short-term to medium-term liquidity. Yeah. Whereas in the real sector, projects normally require the issuance of long-term Islamic securities. Yeah. It is quite difficult for the central bank to issue long-term securities. And challenge number 4 is that the central bank is considered a risk-free institution. Many of the monetary instruments are considered to be risk-free instruments in the money market. Yeah. If let's say central bank gets involved in the real economic transaction under the Islamic monetary policy, then it may expose it to various economic and business risks. So some of the central bank maybe are not ready for this. Yeah. And challenge number 5 is that the monetary policy, the dominant monetary policy is still the conventional one. Yeah. This is, true for majority of countries, most countries. Even though for countries that have dual banking system, where commercial bank and Islamic bank coexist, the Islamic monetary policy is still the follower, yeah, or a complementary of the conventional monetary system or operation. Yeah? So it complements the conventional monetary tools, yeah, without having any clear and direct connections with the real sector. So these are the challenges that many Islamic banks are facing. Yeah. So even though, given that we have mentioned all these challenges, the role of the central bank in applying the Islamic monetary policies should at least try to achieve these three things. Yeah. One is to create Islamic monetary instruments, yeah, to complement the conventional monetary instruments. For example, to create and to offer this sukuk, yeah, or securities, yeah, to investors. For example, these initiatives have been done by the Central Bank of Pakistan, Malaysia, Bahrain, and also Sudan. Yeah. And also to after creating this Islamic monetary instrument, to facilitate, then it has to facilitate the trading, yeah, of these instruments for liquidity management. Yeah. So for example, let's say by issuing Islamic interbank repurchase agreement, yeah. The central bank that has been engaged in this is the Central Bank of Malaysia, Bank Negara Malaysia, and also Central Bank of Indonesia. Yeah? And also the central banks need to also deepen the Islamic money market. Yeah. So for example, to develop a liquid market, maybe develop more secondary market for the securities to be traded. Yeah, because the primary market only is not enough. There has to be a secondary market where the securities can be traded, because sometimes investors who bought the security, they are also having problem with liquidity. They want to redeem the securities, so they need a secondary market where they can dispose the securities and get back their money. Yeah, so a secondary market for the trading of the Islamic monetary instruments is very, very important. Yeah? And then to attract more investors, yeah, provide market structure and other facilities. Yeah? So as a conclusion from the topic that I have presented to you, I guess you have the idea that money plays an important role to facilitate the exchange of goods and services among the different units in the economy. Yeah, because let's say consumers would want to buy goods and services. Yeah, so producers, for example, they also, in order to produce goods and services, they need to have raw materials. Yeah, so they also need money to buy raw materials. Sometimes consumers, when they want to buy big ticket items, they also need money to buy that they need to borrow from the banks, for example. So it is the role of the central bank and also commercial banks to facilitate these transactions of goods and services among the different economic agents in the society, and also to ensure mobilization of money is secured and lead to the development of real sector. Again, central bank plays a very important role. Yeah, so together with the support of the commercial banks. Yeah, so if let's say central banks wants to steer funds, for example, from the commercial banks in order to finance certain sector of the economy. Let's say that the central banks wants the commercial banks to offer financing for microfinance. Yeah, so they can create a policy or initiative. For example, what the Central Bank of Malaysia has done to introduce the value-based intermediation policy. Yeah, in order to promote financing or microfinancing. Yeah. So to make sure that money does not only go to financing of big projects, yeah, to big companies, but also it goes to small or micro companies, yeah, that that normally belongs to the poor, the bottom of the society, so that they can also have access finance, yeah, to start a business or expand their business. Okay, so in Islamic economy setting, central bank is responsible to maintain economic stability, achieve macroeconomic targets, and use Sharia compliant instruments. Yeah, so hopefully, other than the countries that I have mentioned to you earlier, that has done this initiative, for example, to create Islamic securities instruments, and for example, to trade using these instruments in their countries. So hopefully, many more central banks, yeah, in Muslim countries would follow the footstep, yeah, and introduce Islamic monetary instruments to be, for example, utilized in their own countries. So I think that's all that I have to present to all of you today. So thank you for listening. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh from Digital Bank. Yeah? It can also, if the bank is not digital bank, it can also be like the money that being used when we do transaction online. So that is electronic money. But virtual money is the cryptocurrency. It's virtual. Yeah. So it cannot be, for example, it cannot be. It does not come through the financial intermediation or the banking system.
Thank you, Prof. This is from our Facebook. Almost all so-called Islamic banks are using floating rate for all their loan product. No more fixed rate loan in the market. Is this permissible in Islamic teaching?
It is permissible if, let's say, we need to look at the contract. Yeah? We need to look at the contract. If, let's say, the contract fulfill all the requirements of the Sharia, then it is okay. because here the Islamic Bank is only using the floating rate as a benchmark, because they need to benchmark what is their profit margin, and the current benchmark is basically the interest rate. Yeah, but there are also movements by some of the Islamic banks not to use interest rate as a benchmark, but rather they are using the Islamic rate of return. Yeah. So even though some or many of Islamic banks are still using, let's say, floating rate, but there are again movements to use otherwise lah. So, for example, to move against the use of interest rate as a benchmark, because that would not be good to the public, because the public might have the perception that Islamic bank is actually not different from conventional banks.
All right, thank you, Prof. This question is regarding murabaha. How the institution decides on the cost plus? What is the total cost if it's same as that of loan plus interest amount in the conventional financial system? How do we differentiate?
As I said earlier, it has a connection with the second question. The benchmark is the interest rate. Yeah, but again, this is not for example, it's not that the Islamic bank is targeting to get this kind of rate, but they are using it as a benchmark, and it is allowed. Sharia scholars have basically allowed the use of interest rate as a benchmark, yeah, but not to target certain amount of profit from the interest rate. Yeah, it is that one is not allowed.
All right. So thank you so much, Prof. There's a lot of questions for you, but I think we are not able to take it. But as I always say that all of the instructors are willing to address your question. You can reach them through their personal emails, which can be gotten from the brochure. So it's 1:03 p.m. in Malaysia right now. I think it's a good time to end our class. We'd like to once again thanks Prof. Norma for sharing the knowledge with us. Thank you, Prof, and thank you all participants. Inshallah, we'll see you next week.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Recording stop.